Hey gang, this is Fillmore, just letting you know that if you enjoy our podcast, quite frankly, a Howard Stern podcast, and you'd like to donate some money for the upkeep, or you want to request certain clips, please donate to our Patreon page at patreon.com/JimFix. That's JIMFIXX. You can donate as much as you want for as long as you want. There's absolutely no obligation.
It seemed to me like it was a love story that a month later you were divorced.
It wasn't a month later. It was several years later.
Come on.
What do you, come on? What am I lying?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, what do I got to lie for? I'm divorced over 10 years now. What do I have to make that up for?
You've been with Beth for like 9, right?
Yeah.
All right, well. Would you get like divorced and then meet Beth the next day?
Just about, yeah. No, I got divorced after I was separated. And then I got divorced. I don't know. It was a year or two. I'm not good with dates, but the fact is that when I did the movie, what can I tell you? I thought my marriage would last forever. Shit happens,
JD answering a question right now.
Yeah, I'm like Mushmouth over there. That's the best I can do, John. I was gay way before I met Beth. I have a wide varying interest level.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do, when it comes to media.
You have a very gay interest level.
I love Smallville. Beth doesn't make me watch Smallville. What do you think? I do everything Beth wants?
My girlfriend speaks fluent French.
No.
Yeah, so so she knows what channel, like but she's shy about it, but she could say to the waiter, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm like, wow, that's cool. I respect anyone who could speak another language.
That's a classy broad.
She could speak German, French, and English.
How'd she learn all that?
Yeah.
Well, when she was in Europe, she just picked up the language.
Oh, when she was in Europe?
Yeah.
Well, Beth always says to me, you're much older than I am. You're 19 years. What am I going to do when you're dead? Blah, 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 blah. And I go, honey.
She's going to have a party.
Let me tell you something.
Party.
Oh, look at, now we know how Robin's thinking.
Wow.
No, now you're going to say, I'm making a
You're
joke.
fucked up.
Oh, I didn't even thought, but I'm a dark motherfucker. My mind didn't even go there.
Wow.
You guys are ridiculous.
You suck.
How dare you? You assholes.
Wow.
We're busy yesterday shopping for her birthday gift.
You're an
You are
asshole.
shameful.
Come on, you know where
Everybody
that...
here
Wow.
says everything to me.
Arnie, but you're closer to him. You're a girl.
Ouch.
That's why it's a joke.
That hurt.
You know what I was saying?
Yeah, not from you. You're not that funny. I got news
I
for
was
you.
thinking she's going to have to wait a long time. I mean, you've got, like, genes on your side. You're going to be, like, 150 years
I
old.
said
before
thank you.
feel it.
I said to her.
It's a joke.
Yeah, okay.
She doesn't have to start planning for the party for years.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Quite Frankly, a Howard Stern podcast. I'm your host, Fillmore, a.k.a. Jim Fix, and with me is my co-host, Sam. For this particular episode, we decided to do a walkthrough of the summer 2007 appearance of Dr. Ablow on the Howard Stern show, in which he analyzes the relationship of Beth and Howard. And prior to this, at the other place, whose name will not be mentioned, we did a walkthrough of something called The Better Half. And Sam, perhaps you could explain a little better why we wanted to foreshadow this particular recording with that one. That was always going to be the original plan.
So basically, the Better Half walkthrough painted, I thought, a really great picture of the Beth and Howard relationship that we normally don't get to see, because it kind of went behind the curtains a little bit more than I think Howard would have liked, and that's why he most likely interrupted the whole show and made it come to a flaming halt. And then the Ablow session that he had in studio with the two of them gave, I think, an even greater insight to just the Beth and Howard dynamic, which is shaky at best. And you saw a little bit of that when how shallow it was, their relationship on the Better Half, and how it lacked substance of any kind. And just how scary Howard is of peeling back those layers in both things.
Well, there's a number of things in that Better Half show, which was criminally underviewed, but for all the wrong reasons. It really was awful. But it was such a window into how manipulated and how fake everything about their relationship and indeed their appearance, everything is fake. It's all basically there for us to say, well, they're a wonderful couple. But if you really scratch not too deep, you find out that she's just basically a gold digger. And that's what everybody would imagine from a really older famous guy marrying a much younger blonde bimbette or would-be bimbette. But also,
it's also,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. It's also interesting too that they really wanted to control this narrative, and the narrative was, it's all about him and I'm perfect for him.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be famous, but ... Here we are, you're on the show doing a Keith Ablow thing, and here you are on the Better Half talking like a princess, for Christ's sake, in your Abercrombie shirt. I mean, it was just like all the things that they were putting out there seemed to be pre-discussed, like, this is what we're saying about our relationship, stick to the script, but they couldn't. Well, no. She can't.
Well, they're too stupid to get out of their own way. And the initial part of that Better Half is John asking Beth, well, why don't you tell us how you met? And she just cuts him right off and goes, John, it's kind of, this is wasted time. Everybody knows, dinner party, we met, we fell in love, the end. And it sounded very much like Stern told her, look, when you get in there, don't answer any questions. Don't talk about yourself. It's the same way in a lot of times when he does a talk show appearance and he just talks through nonsense throughout the whole thing because he doesn't want to actually reveal anything of himself or his beard.
He becomes the host of every talk show he's on and just barrels right through it, and horribly. And the worst was this last, shit shows that he went on for this ridiculous book. But every time she is involved in something, this I think might have been the most damning one. I mean, the Benji interview was pretty bad, but this really is probably the most revealing thing we've ever gotten from the two of them as a couple, this Ablow thing. And it's cool because now we get to look back, because now it's so far out that now that we see what the relationship is like now, it's kind of amazing that this exists.
Well, and if he had his way, it just wouldn't exist. And in fact, I postulate that the Ablow stuff, there was only 3 appearances of Ablow on the show that I know of. There was him with High Pitch Mike and Artie when he was quote unquote mediating, and the Sal and Christine segment, and then there was this one. And I think there's only little mentions of him within about a year, from 2007, 2008, and then he never comes in again. I think he might have called in once or twice, but then after he starts going off the rails and starts going into the Fox more punditry, I think he just doesn't really need Stern, because it's not like he's getting paid to appear. So if he can get a better paying gig somewhere, why would you ever appear on Stern? As we know, he doesn't pay guests, and they can't even get a fucking bottle of water when they come in. Remember the Robert Plant interview? Like, who do I have to get a cup of coffee here?
One time David Spade came out, he's like, can I get a bagel or something?
And then
you make these people come here at like 6 butt crack of dawn to nothing.
Yeah, and like just fuck. Well, we thought you'd make breakfast on the way, something. Yeah. Anyway, and the other reason for going back to this is because it's very telling that on the wrap-up show of the very day of this broadcast, there's no mention of it. There's zero mention of it. Now, mind you, it took an hour and a half. It's longer. It's possible they ate into wrap-up show time to get through Robin's news, which was so, entertaining always. And, but then, the only time you hear mention of it is the following day, which is, it's on my channel. It's about, the whole idea of that she wants to have a kid. And they discuss a little, but then on that day's wrap-up show, no discussion. So I'm sure, much like when Artie went after Teddy, Stern said, look, no talking about this on the wrap-up show. Don't discuss it. I'm 100% positive that's the way that happened. Otherwise, they would have spent an hour on the fucking Ablow thing if they could have. On the wrap-up show. I'm pretty sure
too that he put the kibosh on when they got engaged. First of all, that whole story, I took screenshots of that in the Marks Friggin, but I think he did the same thing and said to the wrap-up show, I might have you guys not discuss this. I don't want to discuss how I got engaged, the hypocrisies. Like, he didn't want to deal with it. He didn't want them looking into how much the ring was, A, B, C, D.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, that's the beginning of the end. And I found it actually funny that basically, I think it's because of the Ablow thing, he saw how revealing it actually was of his and Beth's relationship. That's the last time he actually let something like that happen, where he could not control certain things about it. And even within the interview, you loved Robin more than anything because she's the one that actually pokes at him and says, look, this is all horseshit. So anyway, people will be able to hear that when we go through it. Far be it from us to deny the fact that Dr. Keith Ablow has actually torpedoed his own practice over the years since 2007. It doesn't necessarily negate the effectiveness of how well he did in this particular segment on the Stern Show, but it would be remiss if we didn't address some of these controversies that have gone on. So I'm going to pull up an article just now to read for you. The article comes from the Salem News from June 26th, 2019. Our headline reads, Keith Ablow settles sexual misconduct lawsuits. So I'm just going to read a little bit of that. A series of lawsuits alleging that celebrity Newburyport psychiatrist Dr. Keith Ablow had taken advantage of patients, including engaging in sexual behavior with them, inappropriately prescribing drugs, and other quote-unquote boundary violations, have been settled, court records show. I'm assuming this is a civil trial. They went for the money. Let's see. It says, terms of the settlement were not disclosed in court filings late Tuesday in Salem Superior Court. Ablow, 57 of Newbury, has also had his medical license suspended in Massachusetts and New York.
Now, this is interesting, too, because initially he didn't have his medical license suspended in one and not the other. So he continued to practice without disclosing to the other state that it was revoked, which you can't do that.
That's right. So I think it was in Massachusetts in New York where it happened, and he went and decided, well, I'll just continue in Massachusetts, and then they found out, and then that one was rescinded or what have you, taken away from him. And it's a civil suit, so it's almost like the Kobe Bryant thing. We'll never know if he really did it or not, but it occurs to me that because sometimes civil suits are about basically getting the bad press off you, and then also the insurance company, like in the Michael Jackson situation, most times it was the insurance company who said, look, you settle, we'll pay for it. But we don't want a protracted long battle because you may not win. But if we settle, we can just end it right now. And they can do NDAs and no one can know the real truth of what happened or the testimony and stuff. So I don't know. It looks bad on Ablow.
He just had to close the medical practices, but then he reopened almost like a life coach center. Mm-hmm. So he gets to do not psychiatry from a medical standpoint, but basically give advice and life coaching to people and just put a different face on it.
Mm-hmm. There's another article by Cheryl Connor on Forbes.com called Should It Be Allowable to Diagnose Mental Health in the Press? Now, when he comes in to do the counseling for Howard and Beth, this isn't a proper psychiatrist's office, so it's not in this. I don't think there's anything wrong with it because he's actually just being an advisor. But this article basically asks the question, like, is it ethical for psychiatrists to do this, to do what he would happen to do, which was try to get into the media and basically diagnose people who he had no connection to. So it says here, one of the examples bringing this question to the hot seat is Fox Network's broadcast personality, Keith Ablow. He's a licensed psychiatrist with practices in Massachusetts and New York. He is also the host of the segment Normal or Nuts on Fox and Friends, which is
not a hint of irony in that one.
Could it be on any other network except Fox? And by the way, everybody, it's not a political show. I'm just saying, let's not fuck around even for a minute. We know what Fox is all about.
Is it right after Beth's Gossip Cop?
When I think of Fox, the only thing I can think of is that dancer on the Maury Povich show, the "You Are Not the Father" dance that somebody made into a GIF. That is the one with a really great one. I love that one. So when I think of Fox, I think you are not the father. Ablow has openly diagnosed, again in quotation marks, President Obama with mental health issues such as being a victim in chief. He has referred to former President George Bush as a person with daddy issues. Adding further insult to potential injury, he also closes his remarks at times spoken as a psychiatrist. And yeah, go ahead.
He's almost the perfect person for this Stern show. Like, I mean, couldn't you get? It's like right.
In a lot of ways, absolutely. Okay, so it says here in the recent article in the Star has taken Ablow to task. In that article, Dr. Jeffrey Lieberman, chairman of psychiatry at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons, says Ablow seems more interested in entertaining than in reflecting well on his profession. Lieberman is a past president of the American Psychiatric Association. The article notes the APA discourages members from speculating on psychiatric characteristics of non-patients, but Ablow is not a member of the APA, the article said, having resigned in 2011 in an unrelated dispute. So it sounds like poor Dr. Keith, in the haste to become really famous like Dr. Drew, who actually I think equally wants to have notoriety. I think he really does want to do well because he's been doing the Love Line with Dr. Adam Carolla. Yeah, for years and years, and they've always maintained a good relationship. But if Ablow really had he was a Stern fan. We know this because he actually listened to the show when he wasn't on it, and then because when he does the show with when he finally does appear on the show, he knows way too much than he should for someone who's just coming in and cold hearing all the problems that Christine and Sal are talking about and stuff. So I think that's a little telling. But yeah. Dr. Drew has been doing, I think, a lot of good work for a long time that he seems like he really does care.
I mean, I would be surprised if something like this came out about Dr. Drew. But again, a TV doctor, I'm always a little bit skeptical about what the motive is there.
Oh yeah, I mean clearly it's a financial thing, but at the same time you get Dr. Ablow kind of blew a hole in his own CV by doing all this stuff, and we've yet to hear from Dr. Drew that he's he's got whatever skeletons he may have in his closet. We have to wait and see. So at any rate, we are going to do the Dr. Ablow versus Skeleton Twins walkthrough. Hope you all enjoy it. We're going to pause it from time to time to talk about stuff. And this takes place this was June 13th, 2007 when he came in. So just,
Jesus Christ, it's so long ago.
That long ago. And on the basis of knowing since then that they have separate residences, that she's in the Hamptons taking pictures of fucking kittens and Instagramming them and gouging their eyes out with blunt instruments and calling them rescue cats. My favorite was the one where the cat hissed at her. that feral.
Muffin.
Muffin. I don't remember.
Muffin. Muffin. I think she said it died, but I think that it was just the neighbor's cat and they were sick of her overfeeding its steamed chicken and they were like, leave our fucking cat alone, you cunt. Like, please stop feeding our cat 3 straight meals a day of steamed chicken. He belongs to us.
You could just see her, you could just see Howard going to the kitchen at Nobu and asking Richie Notar for a bunch of guppies to feed the cats or something, just because he's already eaten for free. Anyway, without further ado, here we start. Okay, one sec. Just one sec. I'll edit this out, by the way. Don't worry about that. For some reason, there we go.
I know that this next segment is going to be a bore fest.
Oh, I wish.
I hate to set it up that way, but I agreed to this because I didn't want everyone saying I'm pussy out. But
well, I got to say, I sort of agree with what Robin's been saying. I saw Beth outside. She looks great. And
okay, go ahead.
I love listening to this old clip with Artie, too, because Howard has a different affect in his voice during this time period. It's like that tough guy affect, like pussy, like the way he delivers the way he speaks when Artie's in the room is vastly different than how he speaks now.
Yeah, right now he's asking for naked boy choirs to come in and naked men choirs to come in and asking people to show them their assholes. And I mean, he just went 100%. Fruit. So anyway, let's continue. And that's funny. Artie goes, of course she's beautiful, which is the most important thing. Right. Right, of course.
Which is the most important thing. But she seems to have the same attitude you do, and I didn't think she did. She said, "Oh God, it's going to be such a waste of time.
It
It's
is.
going to be fun." I thought maybe she'd be a little more.
We'll have to. It's up to Dr. Keith to bring them out.
Right.
That's the job here.
By bring them out, does she mean have him come out of the closet?
Was that a little Robin troll?
Told me last night that she wrote a long email to Dana just to say hi. Oh, hi, hon.
Now that remember in the Better Half walkthrough where they did this whole she tried to make like she and Dana at this time were like great friends or they kept in contact. All they did was all she did was email Dana. It's not like they went out and had fucking martinis for lunch. And then this is, if you're listening to this, you can't, having heard that, not know that this is just Howard, first of all, trying to just kill time during the segment, but also try to make it like, oh, look at Queen Beth. Look at how well she works with other people and how caring and loving she is.
Also, too, the fact that she totally threw Dana under the bus during that Better Half segment.
Totally.
Dana's eyes could have melted her soul with how pissed off she was during that whole thing, because she, instead of making it anything about her, she just totally flipped it and threw Dana and Artie right under that bus. So
yeah.
These email exchanges might be like, I'm so sorry, I came off bad. I mean, who knows what was involved with them, but I don't think that Dana was having any of that after that Better Half thing, because you didn't really hear about them hanging out anymore or any sort of interaction.
Well, it's important to note that even at the time of that Better Half, Artie and Dana were on the outs, and they were at that specific moment, and they had some get back together and then not again subsequently, but at that point they were not seeing each other.
Nice.
And Dana didn't write her back.
When? How long ago?
We'll ask Beth in a minute. Hi, honey. Hi, babe. Hey, you do look good. That dress hits a home run. Now, why would you argue with her? Honestly, Doctor.
Hi, Robin.
Hello.
There is that question.
Yeah, why would I argue with her? What is to argue
he's here to
about?
make you argue.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you'd argue
I'm
with
in
her.
love with her.
All these proclamations, all this horseshit. I mean, I understand it's a radio show, but look at that. Why would you argue with someone who was hot? Ugh.
Just
Anyway.
the over praising of Beth's clothes, everything. Beth was so overhyped. It's the biggest letdown ever.
Isn't that kind of the thing? Like back in the day, I seem to recall, because most people will not know that I listened to this show in chunks, because I was in Asia at the time that because in Canada, when I was still in Canada, you could not actually get the show in most markets. And certainly unless it was the TV show and you still didn't get the daily dose of whatever you wanted, it wasn't 6 hours of this or that, it was selected interviews and bits and stuff. But I had to.
So were you surprised when you saw what she looked like?
No, I wasn't, because I remember Allison saying we've already named her Bimba when the broad that you're going to leave us for. But I did. She was so, when you if you have all the clips in order and you listen to those years, as I did, back to scoop through for just dirt and stuff, and out of entertainment value. You don't really hear of Beth until a certain year, and then you just don't hear anything but Beth. Like, she's so hot. She's in FHM, another fucking magazine we paid to have her in. It's originally, so there wasn't always a hatred towards her. It was more like indifference to me. And then when they started pushing her in the song contest and the beautiful Betho and supermodel that Fred says, and that's when you started going like, fuck her. That's what you bought with all your millions?
Right.
So
she looks great. She is great. She's a great person. Why would I argue with this woman?
Well, she's magnificent, right? But the bottom
Oh
line
my God.
Yeah,
from a couple different places. It might not be that you're taking issue with her. It might be that she takes issue with something that you have to say or think or feel.
All right. Well,
And he's looked at you and he says anybody could argue with you.
Also, when you're at the end of a bell curve and you say you never argue, right? Because that's the consultation I've been asked.
Well, Dr.
address.
Ablow, you said in your email to Gary,
Ablow.
by the way, before we get into this, Didn't you write a long email to Dana, Artie's ex-girlfriend?
Here we go now. The deflection.
Yeah,
deflection.
Absolutely. You
He's
kill
just
time.
talking about how you have to argue in a relationship at something. You can't just not argue at all. That's not a real relationship.
What is it with him in triple syllabic words like Led Zeppelin and Ablow? That's that. No, as far as I know, that's not a New York thing. That's a retard thing.
Really? Oh my God! I'm trying to think of another one that he says.
Let's see.
It happens so frequently, and now
does.
I'm drawing a blank.
It does. Well, when it does come up, just give me a signal. Anyway, let's continue with the. Let's see what happened about Dana's email
recently. I did.
How long ago?
This was about 2 weeks ago.
Really? Well, first of all, that's very nice of you. And secondly, I know she loves you, but Dana, again, she doesn't always get emails. She's been going through a crazy time. But
why is writing an email so nice? I mean, isn't this just like real life? You just, an email comes in and you reply. An email goes out, you reply.
Or an email comes in and you don't reply because you think the fucking person sending it is a total cunt. And you don't want to say, this is Artie saying, he's covering for Dana, basically saying she doesn't get the hint, If
you want, I'll reach out and see what's...
No.
Because they're not together at this point.
Because I was thinking about her and I wanted to know and hear that she was happy. But I just
Artie doesn't want to hear that she's happy.
And
I really do.
I'm not angry at her at all.
Maybe she's too busy with her new boyfriend.
I was a little bit worried.
Why would she be angry with her?
I was just going to say, you totally threw her under the bus. You're probably trying to see if she's mad at you. But you're going to now, play defensive? I'm not even getting into this, because who cares?
Who cares, yeah. It's just more, it's more color.
It's just more Beth.
More
highlighting Beth as a person, the awful person we know she is.
The angel, the snow angel.
But I know she's still in school, so maybe that has something to do with it. So I'm sure I'll hear from her.
Is that what you're saying?
Maybe she's too busy having sex to write you back.
At the end of school, it's crazy hectic.
I know that. I know that.
That was very nice of you, Beth.
It is not. It's just. It's genuine. I've adored her since the day that I met her. Yeah. So I just wanted to.
It's not mutual. Relax, Beth. You don't need to save. You don't need to worry too much about it. And again, they're not. Artie and Dana were not together at this point, so it's irrelevant. And the other thing is, if she doesn't have anything to do with Artie, there's no connection to Artie, there's no connection to Beth anymore. So why would you even fucking reply? So.
And she wouldn't care anyways if Dana's doing okay, or she adored her so much that she threw her right under the bus about serious details about her life.
Right. Why wouldn't you, if you're friends with this person, even if they're at a different tax bracket, why wouldn't you just have their number and call them? This isn't two cans tied together with a string. Let's see if we can reach out.
Reach out and say hi.
She does everything right.
Again, during that thing.
She really does.
Go ahead. Yeah, I see you. I can see you right there.
You could. I mean, because I don't. She does everything right. You're gonna see threads throughout this that keep coming, and one of it is Beth is perfect. Beth does everything right. Beth is perfect. She's amazing.
Like a mantra.
She doesn't do anything wrong.
She doesn't shit.
Yeah, she's literally not even human. She's just right.
Remember, everybody, and this is an inside joke, at this point he has not even seen her asshole yet.
Robin even came to me and said, the way I said, Robin,
we were talking about Roger Ebert, and I was saying I hadn't reached out.
And I said, I reached out, Robin. I'm way more connected than you are. And she goes, well, you are. I go, no, I'm not. I just have Beth in my life.
You need a Beth, is what
I need a Beth.
I'm like, that must be it, because I can't get it together.
We needed that Starfucking anecdote because...
Absolutely.
Yes.
Listen, you gotta marry that woman. Let me explain to you why. For one thing, not only she's beautiful, but she could be sitting at home right now spending up your money.
Which is what she's doing, what she's always done. I love this narrative.
I'm sorry, ding dong, it's Net-a-Porter.
Can you explain Net-a-Porter for those who aren't familiar? Basically every male out there.
You have to pay $10,000 a year, some ridiculous thing, just to be on it, so you can get the first looks at stuff, and then have it delivered to your home which Beth so frequently Instagrams. She Instagrams cats and Net-a-Porter bags, and Net-a-Porter bags arriving and constantly. That's one of her common pictures.
So for this $10,000, do you don't get do you get merchandise to look at or to try or buy? I don't understand.
I live in Buffalo. Do you think I?
But I'm saying like
I don't know.
You're paying $10,000 what to just
have a membership. So I think it's like, you know how Amazon Prime, you pay like $100 or whatever a year.
No clue. Not a part of Amazon Prime. I just use it for Kindle stuff.
Yeah. So I pay Prime, so I get free shipping for everything, and then I think it's faster or something. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But I know for Net-a-Porter, you pay a membership fee just to be on that site. Like you have to pay just to be on there.
Stay tuned in the future, everybody, for a quite frankly look at Net-a-Porter.
Out there making her own money. That's a real good sign for a woman.
What money is she making on her own? Just out of in 2007, what money is she fucking making at that point?
She was in catalogs with floofy feather lingerie teddies, and her name was Bianca Jade, and she was modeling awful sunglasses. So I don't know what money she was making.
It reminds me of a clip which I'll put in the intro if I get a chance. There's at one point Stern goes, Stuttering John was still on the show, and he goes, where was Beth over the weekend? And Stern goes, she's working. And there's this pregnant pause, and John laughs. Like you can hear him audibly laugh, and then suddenly they realize, oh, he's serious. And then they go, that's great. I love it. Oh, my wife's working. I love that she's got a paycheck in now, and because they realize, oh,
and
Jesus,
he goes like
working.
this. He's like, yeah,
she's working.
Just like she does her kitten rounds. like she's a friggin' nurse.
She's working. She's giving a Cleveland steamer right now to someone in Union.
Get home, girl. Stern, make that happen, baby.
I'm working on it. We have an engagement ring that we're all looking at right now. Big rock. All right, doctor, let me get into it.
Nice ring.
Whoa. Listen to that compression.
Sound different and lower than everybody else on the show right now. When he's talking, he sounds like I can hardly hear him.
And I have his mic all the way up.
Scott came in and adjusted it. I got it right.
Let's kill some more fucking time with nonsense.
Where Scott said the button. I don't know.
I don't know what it is. All right, listen. We'll get to the bottom.
Maybe he's feeling low.
Can I say something?
Feeling lower.
Dr. Ablow, can I say something?
Anything.
Howard and I just got engaged. This is the most blissful, beautiful, carefree, worry-free, argue-free time of our relationship. I don't know why we are opening a can of worms right now. This has been.
Do you hear the fear in her voice when she's speaking?
This is the best thing she could have said, because she's really saying, Dr. Ablow, I am sitting on a house of cards, and if you ask me one question, this whole fucking thing, poof.
Shit. Yeah, it's held together with with cat scratch posts and bottles
some pile of shit
Carlo
he put
Rossi
together at Camp Wellmet.
He's got his Camp Wellmet swag. So this is already listen to what the doctor says.
So wonderful. The best part of
I'm
my
not here
time.
to rain on the parade.
This has we've been together over 7 years, and we've really had a wonderful, wonderful ride.
Well, can I say something?
Ride. Only a hooker would say that at this point. Like transactional completely.
Yeah. To that, I think, why not put it out there in front of Dr. Ablow?
Now we're fighting.
No. I'm saying
no.
We should find out before we embark on our life as a married couple.
Yeah.
If maybe there is some issue. Now, people have said to me, it is not normal for a couple not to fight.
No shit.
Yeah, it's like, in this situation, this will come up later in the thing when they talk about arguing, but the idea that they would put forth and sort of set themselves up to fucking fail by saying, well, she's so perfect, she does everything right, we don't argue, we have a perfectly carefree relationship. Why wouldn't you just let the guy start off and then not make yourself look like as much of idiots as you do turn out to be?
It's also too like this relationship is so not strong that if you even give it a tiny bit of introspection, she's terrified that they're going to fight. And he's saying almost like, you know what, I want to see maybe if she is as genuine and as perfect as she appears. It's kind of a little test for her too, I think. He's interested.
Don't you think she's always on an audition?
Perfect. Yes.
I think Chris Rock said that. They're always, girlfriends are always auditioning. And yeah, it's the same way. It's exactly the same sort of tone of voice in the better half, because she's like, I got to be careful to stay on script. Otherwise, God only knows what King Baby is going to do when I fucking get home.
She's terrified of his reaction.
Mm-hmm.
It just defies logic. But I am telling you, Beth and I really have never had a fight.
I get annoyed with him, but...
What do you get annoyed about?
When he
Not
walks...
to focus on the
that came up real fast.
Yeah.
Really, this is something that really irks me. We got new white carpet in my side of the apartment where my office is and where Bianca sleeps, and he always walks on my carpet with his dirty boots, and he's bringing in disgusting...
These are the, I think these are the, what they call pre-distressed boots?
Well, during engagement time, I think this is when he was switching his wardrobe from Puma a red hoodie where it looked like communist China with like
US what was it? US polo, or like not even real polo. It was like I don't know, Bloomies.
And he was wearing like wife beaters constantly. So I think this is now where he's switching to hat and boot Howard with like the low button-down shirts that are just disgusting.
Yeah, he looked like, it was like Treblinka chic. I mean, and I mean that with all due respect to the whole thing is, I think I remember that the phrase from Benjamin was, pre-distressed boots for when you want to look like, when you want to appear as if you kickstart your own motorcycle every morning.
And I love my favorite picture of them. Like, I think it was in the New York Post. It's summertime. She has like a white tank top on and some like cute, capris, and it's like clearly hot. Her hair's in a ponytail, and he has on a leather jacket.
Yeah. That looks comfy.
These giant boots with like chains. Like, it looked ridiculous.
Yeah, he's always dressed as if he's assassinating somebody. He's got a .357 in his underarm holster at all times.
I'm on the streets, and he knows that I hate that. But what he does is, can I walk on the carpet? And he walks right in, and he knows that I hate that. So I just take a deep breath. We do whatever we have to do, and then he leaves, and then
I think about his wallet. I think about the hole in my apartment and the bag of black dildos. And I don't want to go back to that.
I think I'm going to take a deep breath and know that I really just want a friggin' ring and never work a day in my life. I don't want to go back to Ames. So
I don't want to model like for Ashley Madison or whatever.
I release it right then, but I let it go, but it really annoys me every time he does it.
All right, I don't want to get married. Well,
but that's it.
Does that sounds like a microcosm of what happens in their life at that time? That was happening all the fucking time.
So like you're obviously married. I'm not married, but I've been in relationships, long-term ones. If you're saying this little thing, this rug incident, or let's say you forgot to close the screen door, or you left the milk out,
a toothpaste cap or something,
it becomes this giant argument. It's not about the toothpaste or about the milk. I mean, it can be if it's a little conversation, but this coming up right out of the gate when she says, we never fight, but here's how I feel about this. How many of these little incidents, like these things that she holds back on and needs to take a breath and release it, really happen? Because I think it happens every friggin' day. Like, I can imagine all day long she's sitting here trying not to explode on what a pussy and an annoying, neurotic mess he is all day.
I think also she feels, it's funny, ironically enough, she feels stronger saying stuff like this around Robin and Artie and people who will see her side because they know what a fucking asshole he is. But then he also, the only reason he's talking about it with her in that, because that's where he feels the most comfortable. Like one-on-one, he's such a pussy. He's not going to tell someone to F off, or I'll remember the one time he goes, I ran into that Richard Johnson or something at the restaurant and told him, you fucking wrote stuff about me. And what was it? And he goes, I don't remember, but I knew it was bad.
I swear that's it. That's really the only thing on a daily basis that irks me.
So there are other things that irk you about me. You got very irked the other day when I didn't listen to you.
I thought they never fought.
Yeah. This is coming out quite fast and furious, isn't it? For a couple that claims to never fight.
That's lesson.
Okay.
Okay, and listen, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I am a trained listener, and it may be that because you're so gifted, here's the thing, you're extraordinarily gifted as a communicator.
I agree.
This is retarded. Now, is there any worse interviewer than Howard Stern in 2020 or in 2000? In 2007, he still actually was okay. This interrupting thing only really got worse after Artie left.
Is there any worse adjective to describe this piece of shit?
As a like gifted listener. What listener? He can't remember. He deliberately, when he does the thing where he forgets people's names, it's clearly just an arrogance, like, fuck you, you're not important enough for me to remember. He does know their fucking names, and he often just says it to diminish them, actually. But anyway, here's Dr. Lawsuit, Dr. Sexual Harassment talking about it.
Agree with you there.
Yeah.
I don't think
that's my diagnosis.
Go ahead.
All of a sudden, he loves you, Dr.
But listen to the dynamic that's unfolding. She does this thing already. Okay, 7 years in, which is a significant period of time to not have an argument.
Yes.
Where you walk on her white carpet.
But it is his apartment, and he did pay for the carpet.
Listen to her, but she's making excuses for you.
Right.
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 She's justifying you dirtying the white carpet.
Yes.
In 7 years, could you have any more shallow of a I mean, think about what we're discussing here. You've been with somebody for 7 years. You're about to get married, and you're talking about walking on the carpet?
Mm-hmm. I found
the House of Cards is so what this relationship is.
Well, yeah, and it's ironic enough. I just looked it up because I was curious about this, and I knew Keith Ablow had a show, and it supposedly lasted 3 seasons, according to IMDb, and it ends in 2007. It's 2006, 2007, and it has like a 4.3 rating out of 10, so clearly people didn't like it. So at this point, he was doing whatever he could to sort of maintain his life and lifestyle, Ablow. So to go on the Stern show when he was at a null period in his career, or kind of stagnating, explains why he would go on so often in the span of a year.
No, she is right.
Interesting, though, right?
She is right. Here's the problem.
Okay.
These boots that I wear, I swear this is based in logic. It's not a hostile, aggressive act. It's not me trying to claim my apartment for myself. Literally what has happened is...
No, it's because you have Wigga bifida. You're lazy.
You can't reach.
Your whole leg will pop off like a friggin' Lego, so you just don't want to take off the costume.
It's because I've often thought when he when he goes to these like swimming, when he goes to these Caribbean vacations, he puts on a bathing suit. People look at him like the sloth victim in Seven. With all the little pine cone fresheners like around hanging in the thing. Anyway, it is an aggressive thing. It's a king baby thing. It's not even aggression. It's my house, my carpet. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm keeping them on. It's not aggressive. It's simply you don't matter.
It's hard to be Herman Munster. I'm keeping this shit on.
Oh yeah.
The carpet never should have been white to begin with. That's number one. Number two.
Do you like the white carpet?
I love the white carpet.
Okay, but okay, I went along with it. The fact of the matter is that my boots are so goddamn hard to lace up. In order to take them off and take them off, it takes me 20 friggin' minutes.
Yeah.
Aw, poor king baby. Hasn't discovered Velcro yet. He hasn't discovered slip-ons yet. He doesn't have a Chelsea boot in the house.
In my pair of tallest lace-up over-the-knee boots, I could never imagine taking 20 minutes to get anything on.
Do you imagine him looking at those boots like all the students in Good Will Hunting look at the blackboard and that one big mathematical equation? How do I figure this out?
I want to be with her. I like to walk over to that side of the apartment. I'm wearing these boots. I'm about to leave in 5 minutes. I don't have time to sit and lace up boots every 5 minutes every time I want to come in and bath.
I don't have time. He has nothing but time.
No wonder why she lets everything go, because look at this. She just said, I have a white carpet and I'd like it if you take off your boots. And it turns into this king baby hissy fit where now it's not even about the shoes. All of a sudden it's the carpet shouldn't be white. Why the fuck not?
Well, I agree. I would, first of all, white carpet is retarded in my opinion too, but because unless you want to highlight every bit of dust and dirt and shit that comes in, but
and get a giant bulldog. I mean,
just shedding and shitting wherever she wants.
Yeah, I agree with him, but the point is it's there. But it wasn't even about the carpet choice. It was about your boots.
It's about your fucking boots.
Context of saying how much you love her, which she values so extraordinarily.
Yes.
And how much you want to go see her. You are dirtying the carpet.
I am.
Which she has said, listen, it does. I wish she had said it more forcefully, because, and this is what some of the sort of direction.
You think she's afraid of me? That's what you said in your email.
I think she should say, listen, don't come in on the white carpet.
And she does sometimes.
I say it that
and I don't come in.
You do.
I do.
Sternly.
Sternly. Yes. And I don't.
No pun intended. You know that really she just fucking bites her. She just said it herself. She bites her tongue. She lets it go on because who's controlling the fucking purse strings?
He does it. She doesn't say it because she just contradicted herself. She lets him come in, takes a deep breath, probably mumbles, "Howard's a pussy" under her breath.
Yeah, like she did to, was it Al Roker?
Yeah, on the Today Show. That was fun.
I say, okay, I'm hurt.
But she says you keep doing it.
Well, I do. I come back and I try again.
Every day.
I mean, look.
Well, listen, here's the
thing. You ever see these old ladies? You used to go to their homes when I was a kid.
Yeah, you.
Cover everything.
Yeah, basically.
Yes.
Remember that?
My grandparents did that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to cover. I don't want my life in plastic.
But I've made.
I don't want my life in plastic. The guy doesn't touch anything. He doesn't touch anything. He's got people to open doors for him, to help him downstairs, because stairs is the same thing as going down to base camp on Everest for him when he walks. And I mean, like, he needs a Sherpa guide to get through fucking New York. And what was that line? He said if you took the little baseball bat and had him look down at it and spun him around 5 times in Manhattan, he'd be lost.
Oh my God!
Like a lifelong, almost lifelong New York resident. Yeah. Anyway,
I have a solution on my own, Dr. Keith.
Yeah.
I've ordered new carpet that's not white.
Well, but no, that's not a solution
on
because
his credit card.
I was just about.
That's important.
Oh,
that's passive aggressive.
This is how they fight. This is a good. I've listened to this so many times, but every time I listen to it, I catch a new facet. So this is how they fight. The most passive aggressive, not saying, the pot's boiling. And this is so great because now we get to look at the relationship in 2020. And this is in 2007. And you could just see a clear line for how this whole House of Cards has blown the fuck right over, and it all happened on Ellen.
Oh, completely. Yeah, when he decided he wanted The Bachelor more than he wanted either of the women.
Thank you.
But that, again, listen, I'm not going to script how this relationship evolves, but you may need me down the road, right? Because every marriage courses through good times and bad times. This is, as you've said, the extended honeymoon period. But in describing the white carpet, you said it never should have been there. You've never given up on the fact that she picked the wrong carpet.
Are you saying I'm a bully?
I'm not saying you're a bully at all,
You're bullying him right now, you fucking dick. I hate him. I hate him. I just have to say this.
It never should have been white implies that you couldn't say originally, I don't want it to be white, and it's not going to be white, and you couldn't stand up to it. So you basically let her get the fucking paid for it, and then you're passive aggressively doing all this shit because, I really didn't want it anyway. So you're basically admitting you're a pussy. You are. You're not a bully.
And he's right. You never let it go.
There's a difference between a bully and a fucking baby. A baby just whines until they get their fucking way. A bully just says this is the way it's going to be. He's not a bully. He's just a fucking king baby. Anyway.
Am I a bully?
No, I don't think you're a bully.
Do you think my personality is overpowering, Beth?
That's different. That's different. That's different.
I think Dr.
Thank you, Robin.
Listen to what... I'm going to lie down on the couch. I need help. Howard's bullying me, and I was chased in grade school.
So Dr. Ablow was stuffed in a couple lockers, too, it seems. This is the thing. When you got in a passive-aggressive relationship on both sides, it must create so much hostility underneath, boiling over for years and years. I can't imagine what that must be like to live.
It's a dormant volcano that, when it explodes, will kill everything in its sight. I mean,
there's nothing healthy about it.
No, it's very unhealthy.
I have said to Beth that I would appreciate if she was in therapy because I want her to have her voice. I want my partner to feel as strong as I do in the relationship, total 50-50, as much as that scares me.
Yes.
It doesn't scare him. He doesn't want an equal fucking partner. He doesn't have an equal partner, and he didn't then. This is complete horseshit.
Also, his therapy just feeds his narcissism. So it would just add to the more passive-aggressive nature. They would just go, complain to their prospective shrinks, have the same conversations that they have with their shrinks about each other, and just feed the narcissism. I mean, it would not help at all.
Yeah, he's not seeing a therapist. He's seeking. That's what people seem to not understand, and you have to look into the psychology of it all. He's in analysis, same as Woody Allen, and it was recommended even in his own book in Private Parts when it was given. If anybody wants to go back and look at the Private Parts, the book, at the end of it, and Benjamin pointed this out. I forgot all about it years and years ago, but it is true. He gave the book to read to several psychiatrists to read, and they all basically agreed that they basically said that based on the psychological profile of the book, if it's a character and we know it's him, that analysis would not be good for him because it just allows him to fucking talk about himself again and again. And then they've since debunked Freudian analysis. So real therapy should be about goal-based matters. So he said over the years, I want to be a better father. I want to be, what is it? I want to know how to cry. I want to learn how to cry. He's probably crying like a pussy like every 5 days. I think, so as a result, it's not recommended, but he still went ahead with it anyway, analysis. So if he wants her to do the same thing, all she's doing is kvetching to a fucking doctor and they're, financing a yacht somewhere in the Caribbean.
It'd be much better to have a woman who is a subservient.
Subservient, you fucking retard.
Who's afraid of me, who will always put me up on a pedestal, but that's not a real relationship. A real
shit.
When you can be equals and not be afraid to have your voice.
You don't feel that we're equals. This is new to me.
I do.
I do.
I do feel you're my equal.
I've always thought we felt.
But I don't know if you feel like we are.
Okay, so see the turnaround?
Yeah,
I don't think
I'm sorry. I just almost broke my neck on that turnaround. Jesus Christ! Is he even listening to himself?
Did you see? That's yeah. So he's such a shitty listener. He can't even hear himself. God. That's why we call him 89 because he's probably 79 at this point, and that IQ of his. How can you say that? How can you say I want an equal partner when everything is predicated on you having the big wallet and the purse strings?
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, then there's no problem.
Well, you're ready to say there's no problem, and I'm not a problem maker. I'm only a problem solver.
Except when I get in tow with certain patients.
When I fuck my patients and pretend that didn't happen.
And ask them to be tattooed between their legs.
When I make my real life like 50 Shades of Grey.
The way he has problems. That's why I felt so energized when I heard from Gary, listen, they don't argue, and heard it on the show. Because the bottom line is, that is a symptom of something going on in the relationship. There's always something that
But what do you think's going on? Let's find out, because I think this is a boring segment. I think you've got two people here who love each other, who are not really at odds. And
go ahead.
He's saying, well, then let's see what's going on here, but let's not really find out what's going on here.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm really easygoing.
No, she's so easygoing.
Yeah, I'm so easygoing. I'd never rock the boat because I know where my ass is headed.
So this is the kind of, I guess you could say cat and mouse thing that they play throughout this whole segment is, let's go there, let's not go there. Let's go there, let's not go there.
Absolutely.
And let's get back to our perspective roles where I'm perfect and you're not mad at me. I'm going to bring up a little something. You're going to retaliate. And then we're going to go back to our corners again. This is how it goes through the whole thing.
Basically, yeah, it really is. It is like, come on, reach for the medicine.
Cares for animals and particularly the ones who are injured, and all of us have injuries, yourself and myself included. I get that. But if you just look at what's transpired in just a few minutes, here we have you saying she picks the wrong thing sometimes, and then you don't quite take her seriously when she says, don't walk on the white carpet. And then you did say it, even though she's willing to say, no, you didn't. You both agreed, we didn't say it. But you did say it, that you think she needs therapy in order to be your equal. And she picked up on it, but she retreated so fast. She said, no, okay, that's fine.
Right.
Why didn't you say, but Howard, you did say that.
Because both of us can't tolerate bad feelings in the relationship.
That's it in a nutshell. You called it. I mean, yes, you've heard it before, but psychologically and actually sociologically, that's exactly what you would glean from this just so far, just having heard it the first time, for example.
Yep.
Okay, is that true?
Are they afraid to step up?
Why? Where does it come from? From your dad or from?
Yes, I don't want any anger. I don't want any, I'm very afraid of anger.
He's afraid of everything.
First of all, I cringe anytime anybody brings up parents or parentals, because that's Wiggy's cue. Pavlov's dog. Parents. Let's talk about Roosevelt and my childhood. Here's the time for the narrative.
Let's talk about my mother's tits and seeing her naked, seeing my sister naked. Let's not talk about watching Yogi Bear and getting turned on by the park ranger.
That which you run from appears in front of you. Right?
A naked bear.
That's a poster.
Robin, now, what do you think of this therapy? I don't believe that I need this.
Howard, I'm sitting here biting my tongue.
Why? Don't bite. Now's your chance.
Did you fight in your first marriage?
No.
All right, we see where that ended.
Well,
that's true.
gotta love Robin there. She used to do this so much more often when she felt like she was empowered.
She gets into her passive-aggressive swipes now. There's so little that she can work with now that it's almost pointless. I mean, it's narcolepsy on the radio, so it's just terrible. But this is Robin when she's at her best.
Right. It's death by Ben and Jerry's here, because what happens is she eventually, but she's passive aggressive in that sense too. She gets it sort of bubbling, and all of a sudden when she hears enough horse shit, she can't have it anymore. This was way back and still like in a time where he would allow people to talk back to him and tell him F off, but it would bother him and it would get back to them somehow. He'd passive aggressively get back at them somehow. And Artie definitely was the brunt of that with the bro fight and all that stuff. So, so this is one of my favorite parts because of the admission from Beth.
True.
My feelings aren't get a blue carpet.
Wait, that's feeling better.
You didn't fight in your first marriage at all.
I never fought with Allison.
Now, how does she not know? And again, I am not a troublemaker.
I do know that, but
did you?
No,
you
don't.
Did you see that?
There's another turnaround. I'm sorry. Let me snap my neck back the other way.
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean you never fought with your first wife? And how does she not? Oh, she does know that.
But
they don't have any sort of real communication.
Zero.
Like it's red carpets and appearances. That's it. That's it.
This is kind of the fodder, the crumbs that led to people getting on the conspiracy that Howard is in fact closeted, and this is just a bearded relationship. Because if you look back, and anybody wants to do the homework can do it, just Google search it. Angie Everhart and Robin Givens were, and I believe are still, both Buchwald clients. And during the Mad Tear years, which for our purposes we'll say was, supposedly 98, but it's really like 97. And we often say Mad Tear in his colon. The whole timeline was, most people that feel he's a closet case would say that they were just there to cover up any homosexual activities or bisexual activities, whatever you want to call it in this situation, and to make sure that he looked like, oh wow, we'll get you on certain things if you agree to appear to be seen with him, or or stories come on that, oh, you're the best lover. So
this reminds me like when you want somebody to get a green card and come over, and you just have to know enough about them to pass.
Right.
You could.
Who could fight with me?
You could even extinguish. Exactly. That's the point. You refined an armamentarium of verbal abilities that allow you to extinguish anyone's objections. So you lead with, hey, I don't think this is a boring segment. I don't need this therapy.
That's right.
But that doesn't deter me because the doctor is in.
Look at.
Now, say what you like about Ablow, but he is a listener. He is a good listener. And he's picking up on all of their 79, 89 stupidity right off the bat. But he's a smart cookie in the sense that he has to still tread lightly in this burning house they call a relationship.
He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to throw gasoline on how clearly he's getting the sense that this is a very fragile structure that they have right now. This relationship is very, very fragile. So in order to not completely blow it up, he's doing a good job at working around it, but he's not saying, I'm going to do this on your terms. He is still trying to, show them that they need some help and they need to work on some things.
Mm-hmm.
You sell that on a
What
T-shirt.
bothers you about me?
I don't like it when you got that massage from that man.
He wanted it to be him.
He also, this is because Beth said one thing. This is now Pouting Howard.
Yeah, absolutely. He's now, mind you, he could have a million things he wanted to say, but he's trying to come up with something that's the least sort of least volatile issue he might have with her, and it's not really. He's
already talked about it on the show, so it's not like news
ad nauseum.
And you didn't tell me about it?
That was 2 years ago.
Well, I slammed the door.
That.
I shut the door on her.
I'm so perfect for him. I do nothing wrong.
Remember Michael Corleone in the...
Jesus Christ.
If you're playing a drinking game during this, we should announce that in the beginning. Get your cards out. I'm perfect.
I do nothing wrong.
You're going to be smashed.
Godfather, when he shuts the door,
That's very interesting. Did you hear what you heard it?
What
she said,
say?
I am so perfect for him, I do nothing wrong.
Right, you can do something wrong.
Yeah, but you saying that doesn't make it so, because...
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm perfect. It's sort of that whole, he says it later on, it's a reclamation, like, remember, I'm the perfect beard. She's not saying it, but we can read between the lines. Like this, you can hear the fear in her voice every time she starts laughing. The same way Robin has that nervous laughter, Beth has almost the exact same thing. When she's laughing, that's a tell that she's frazzled and she's like, oh God, what am I setting myself up for if this happens, if I don't fix this?
She's just picturing that credit card flying right out of her wallet. And it's like, shit, I better retract. Right.
And Bergdorf's like shutting the doors on her.
It's bundled with you being Howard Stern.
That's why she needs therapy. Because she can do something wrong. She doesn't have to feel like she can't do anything wrong.
Now, that's very telling. If you say she can do something wrong, that's why she needs to be in therapy, because she can do something wrong. That implies what we've been saying, and guys like Arm have been brilliant in pointing out that, and I've said it many times as well when we were at the old place, that he uses therapy as an excuse to be an asshole. His whole thing is, I'm in analysis, which who knows if he really is anymore. It could be all horseshit. He could have stopped it 20 years ago for all we know, or 10 years ago for that matter. And but it's almost like I was drunk. I didn't mean it. I was full of truth serum. And, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still working on myself. That's an excuse to get away with incredibly assholish behavior, like not fucking contributing to his cousin's fucking GoFundMe, when he had cancer.
Right. Now, where does that come from?
Shit.
Also, that comes from somewhere. Where did you get the idea that to be perfect means...
I just mean for him. I don't cause him any stress.
Oh, boy, he's asking a good question.
But I don't have an answer. I just know that I'm perfect for you.
But why do you have to be perfect?
That's a good question.
Because then you'll fire me and pick some other dumb person
to represent,
because the
to be
112
on my
retirement
arm.
contract will be ripped up.
You could just see Buchwald circling in the green room with that contract. Remember, no more, was it Jimmy Choo's?
The pressure that I have pressure to be perfect for him. Not that I'm perfect. I don't feel the pressure that I have to be perfect for him. I just, in experiencing our lives.
Go ahead.
She is fumpering. I mean,
Yeah.
this is going to cause her a brain aneurysm. Thinking she can't fucking think her way through a box. Holy
Her synapses are going like, we gotta connect.
Do you know the Austin Powers, the fembots, when they're like shooting the guns, the robot fembots in Austin Powers, and they short circuit and start blowing up? That's what I'm seeing.
Perfect for him.
What do you think would happen if you weren't perfect?
What is not perfect?
What do you think? Let's say you're not perfect for me. Let's say
what would be an example of me not being
You
perfect?
say, listen, I like massages from men.
Right.
And I'm going to get them.
Oh, I don't like them from men, actually. I was creeped out that day.
Right.
So that's a
We're
bad
so
example.
creeped out that you finished. You didn't say no. I would like a woman.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't start off that way. And Ablow, you hear Ablow, he's like, what about massages? So like he was right down on, you could just see him using it for jerk material later on.
He wants to. When this relationship doesn't work out, Beth, I think you should come see me.
Look me up. I'll hook you up with some Zoloft.
Early with you.
Right.
Once or twice a month, I get invited to go somewhere great, whether it's a fashion event, and I go, and I sense that he does not like that. And 99.9% of the time, I'm home in bed with him. I feel I would be less perfect if I was a normal 34-year-old woman going out like my friends do more often, and I choose not to.
I know because I'm with Grandpa, and I got to make sure he's tucked in.
First of all, she's saying this sentence like she's being questioned by the Nazis if somebody's in the attic.
She looks just like Montgomery Cliff. She's speaking just like Montgomery Cliff in Judgment at Nuremberg. He's going.
She could barely say month. Month.
Well, that
I got. Oh,
is that typically like? Have you noticed that in your life with people? If they, I mean, gifted liars can lie all the time. You won't know that they're lying. They're just, I don't know if that's sociopathology or what. But with Howard, it's such his tell when he fumpers and he can't. With that one clip with the New York Post that I posted on my channel about Emily Stern and how she said
we've mocked that so much. I love it.
It's definitely worth like a 15-minute go through, like just to have it as extra content. And we will. And by the way, anybody listening, this will probably be in 2 parts, but we'll also be doing deep dives and smaller dives, so the content will be of varying lengths, but you're just going to get more content, not less. When stuff like that happens, we're going to actually tell you in advance. It's 20 minutes, it's 30 minutes, it's a short thing, but it's just extra content. In your life, do you notice that from people that go like caught?
Yeah, that's a tell for certain liars, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I got to read this comment that a poster named Tired wrote. Beth is a starfucker of nuclear proportions. I am nobody in the entertainment business, but a very rich uncle rented a mansion in Malibu in 97, and I stayed there an entire summer, May to September. Our neighbors were all A-list actors, directors, writers, and we were always invited to their parties. And one of the people I met twice was Spade, a colder, self-absorbed narcissist I have never encountered in my entire life on the planet. They all They all assumed I was mega rich, by the way, because of our house, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the fact Beth is such a starfucker that she won't leave the fucking party with her husband is disturbing. So, by the way, this is because I'm reading this comment because Beth is saying, I'm so perfect for you because I like to be in bed and I don't go out. But the once in a while times that I do, I'd like for you not to make me feel bad. Fast forward to, I think this was in 2013. Yeah, that poster wrote that. So 2013, she's now just like sending him home and staying at parties.
Well, I mean, there would be nothing wrong with that if they were up front from the beginning saying, look, I just want...
I just really want to do blow with celebrities and send you home.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if all he had to do to diffuse this, I think it was Cyclone, a really brilliant poster. Hope he comes along for the ride for this. He at the other place, he was just so incisive and so deep in some ways, and he basically said that he could have just unleashed. He could have eroded all of the ill will a long time ago if he'd just been honest about certain things. He could have kept certain things quiet about his kids and whatever, but as long as he just said, look, I fucked around, that's the reason behind the divorce. When he doesn't, we know you're a fucking multi-millionaire, so why are you acting like you don't have money? Why are you just doing that whole plumber thing? I don't want a plumber to know that I'm worth money. When a guy comes over to a mansion with like 16 cat garages and, and just servants waiting on you. Like Tony Montana's house, in Scarface.
I don't want him to know I'm rich.
That's right. It's anyway. So this whole idea that all he had to do was really just be forward, just sort of disengage the hostility by just being honest about a few things, and people would have been fine with that. But because he's been caught lying so many times, that's mostly where a lot of the ill will comes from the ex-fans and even the fans now, if they have any left. So.
But I'm okay with that. But those rare times
I would
that
like
I
to go out with my friends too.
That's what that's when I here, this is good.
Artie, anywhere you want to go with me?
That's what he does.
Listen, I think
that's what he does.
What I'm getting out of it is I think Beth is very aware that she's perfect for you, and I think she doesn't realize it maybe, but she puts pressure on herself to continue to be perfect.
But do you want to go out at night?
Yes, she does.
She does?
Yes.
Have I ever once said don't go out?
You've never said that.
It's hard for me. I miss you.
But yet you hold a grudge from the side. Oh, you're leaving me?
Yes, I miss you.
And then he says, I'm going to have to make a plan with my friends.
Well, I have to threaten you, yes.
I'm going to go out. I'm going out with
I love Artie. That's healthy. I have to threaten you. I'm going to threaten you by going out with a bunch of old codgers, and while you're going doing blow off of I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to go out with Dr. Lou.
Dr. Lou and the Camp Well Met crew.
Austin Artie, we're going to the strip club.
I'm going to Scores, but I'm laughing. We're laughing the whole time, though.
Well, yeah, everybody's laughing at him.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, whoa, Jesus, I'm scared now.
Are you upset when I go to the Nicole Miller fashion show this afternoon?
She feels in some amount of peril.
I am, first of all.
If she's serious with you about disagreements.
No. See, I agree with that.
She keeps checking with you.
She is right. She is right.
Yeah.
I do have issues about people leaving me. I want to control everyone in my atmosphere. I am a puppet master, and I want everyone to be a puppet.
Now it's not really about him wanting to control everybody. It is partially about that, but mostly it's fear that people get emancipation, that people get ahead, have fun without him. It's really about being incredibly petty. It's not about I need to control everything. It's more like, well, I know I can't control everything, but I know passive aggressively I can do certain things to make people just be on their fucking tippy toes around me because I might fire them.
Now, initially when I heard this in 2007, you would think that when he says this, he's talking about, I want to control people directly, in a relationship. But now I'm thinking he's like, I'm controlling my story that I'm hiding. I'm controlling Beth because I'm hiding something about myself. I'm I need this control and to control people around me to think a certain way, act a certain way, do a certain thing, or the fact I'm a flaming homo is going to come bursting out of the puppet show. Like, it's going to be like The Sound of Music.
I was hoping for a Gaylord at least one time, but yeah, it's very controlled, very, very. What's that analogy Benjamin says about sauce on the side, where he goes, if I don't do sauce on side, then it's full, unabashed Gaylordism, and there's no more sauce on side. Sauce is going right on my 6 almonds, and that's the end of it.
If I'm going to be in a real relationship with Beth, I can't be the puppet master. It's going to be a burden and all of that.
It's going to be a burden, so it'll be tough for me. It'll be my problem if I'm not in control. Yeah.
Listen to this. Holy shit. He can't. He's so narcissistic that he just contradicted. I need to be the puppet master, but I don't want to be the puppet master.
It's just going to be a burden. So I don't want to do anything.
God damn it. You made me be the puppet master, but you had no choice.
Don't you get the impression if he could hire someone to actually breathe for him, he would?
He'll be angry later.
That's right. And she'll hate me for it. That's right.
I don't feel that I am.
You're not. I don't think you are.
I don't think Beth thinks.
She goes, this is, how many times do you count I? If you want another drinking game where he goes, I, this is another one.
With my inability to be alone at night and that I can't go out, I want to be with you, and I also want to be at work. And it's very difficult for me not to have everything. I want to have it all.
But then I'm going to come in on Monday and say how much I don't want to be here.
Yeah, exactly. This is like a master class. And, on Facebook when they do that, David Mamet teaching a master class on screenwriting. It's Wiggy teaches a master class in passive aggressiveness.
Can't. And I have to struggle with that. It's not about Beth. It's about me.
You remember the Summit video? He goes, fuck, what was it? Fuck the score, not scores. What was the one? Ronnie's Gentleman's Club. What was it called again? The new one?
Whores.
No, but he said like, fuck scores, fuck scores. You should not be wearing my swag. It really should just be Stern, Howard 101. It's all about me.
Flaps.
The T-shirt should read, "It's all about me." That should have been the "Join the Revolution" slogan.
Well, yes, and she's already said, listen, I did one thing to which he objected. I got this massage from a man. He's been talking about it for 2 years. So guess what happens if she starts going out and she has to worry? What if he subtly doesn't say it, but he really doesn't like it? It could be years of a campaign about what I did. Now, also, notice
she is right. I dated other girls, and a lot of them went out every night, and I did break it off. I couldn't deal with it.
Why not?
Because I don't like to be left alone.
Why?
Because I'm jealous.
That's not why you broke up with them.
No, that's not why. I want to be with someone at night.
You want someone there. Right.
And why do you live in a different house?
Fully there would be the question. I don't have an answer.
Right.
Or do you want someone who reminds you you're there?
I want somebody to remind me that I'm there.
Well, that's a little more concerning.
I'm a very sick man.
Okay, now that's isn't that really the epicenter of his whole thing? It's not about that she's got emancipation. In this particular case, it really is. I need someone around me to fucking tend to my every goddamn need.
And to be honest with you, he doesn't even need Beth. Plug in anybody. Plug in anybody, for Christ's sake. He's just saying, I need somebody. Somebody. That's right. A really telling. He did not say her name once.
That's right. He didn't say, I need her. I need my wife or my fiance in this particular time. You're right. I didn't even think about that. That's an interesting observation. Yeah.
Wow. What a piece of shit. Keep going.
Delightful nonetheless.
I have a lot of issues, so I'm working on my issues in therapy. And
God.
Yeah.
So you went to therapy to be a better father. They're not speaking to you and didn't go to your wedding.
Instead, you invited Chevy Chase, who made up a speech that everybody hated about fucking you in the ass and blowing him, blowing him.
Anal warts.
And getting anal warts that everybody told you was shit. And you passive aggressively waited until he was no longer going to come on the show before you started just basically acting like he didn't exist anymore. That, I think, the Chevy Chase thing is also on my my channel if anybody wants to hear it.
That's what to do.
Yeah.
And I do say to Beth, sure, it's going to be hard for me when you go out, but by all means, you're a person, you have your needs, and you need to go out. And she's not asking me for permission.
I know, I don't ask him for permission, but I feel the grudge. That night that I'm leading up to leaving, and then the next day, you left me with my dinner all by myself. I warmed up my meatballs. I'm like, well, I prepared the meatballs.
You inspire guilt.
I emotionally pull away from people who leave me.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Beth, by the way, this is the period leading up to the wedding. She made turkey burgers and turkey meatballs and engagement chicken. So it's like 3 things.
Engagement chicken was about 2004-ish.
Right.
Yeah.
Those completely stopped, by the way, after the wedding. There was no more mention of turkey meatballs.
No, he always had a sippy cup of almonds in case the hunger got too bad, and while he was napping. She didn't. I don't know if she ever fucking picked up a pan in her life after a certain point.
I do.
And then I think about that too when I'm out, so I can't fully enjoy the experience.
Good. I mean, that's terrible.
Wonderful. Oh, this sounds great.
Right. But does that make you?
I'm a very passionate man.
So he's winning. I only want to stay home because I'm the happiest when I'm.
Do you know also?
It's clearly a reign of terror.
Gotta love Artie there. Finally, just coming out with and saying, like, Jesus Christ. If I go out, this guy's going to be on my fucking ass for days and days complaining and bitching about how I left them or how I wasn't out. So I can't go out. But, he's saying, but by all means, go out.
And here's another horrible thing about Stern. He wants you to be a person. I want you to feel like you're an equal, and I want you to feel like you're a person. But now I don't want you to do anything, and don't go out and stay home and don't be a person. I mean, and it's constantly like this with all relationships in his life. I want you to make money and be successful, but don't go out and do gigs and use my name.
Well, no, but that's the other thing. It's very Machiavellian, even though he probably couldn't know. He thinks Machiavelli is probably some kind of pizza manufacturer. He wants his workers hungry. He wants them humble. He wants them, basically subservient, as the word is, not subservient. He wants them to need him enough that they never can get free. So the minute
but this is like this with all relationships with him. He wants
it's transactional.
Yes, and he also wants like that whole giant slideshow, that awful, embarrassing summit that he had in 2013. It's the same thing. Like he's not clear with what he wants, but he expects you to know what he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he doesn't want to do the work to get what he wants.
Sure. When we do
no winning.
When we do the Stuttering John saga, which will be a bit of a deep dive in the very near future, I hope, that one segment where he basically says to Gary and John, look, when I tell you it's all right, you got to know it's not all right. We have the audio of that. We will play that.
Well, it's a.
You might be onto something. Maybe I'm the wrong guy. I'm not
Are you
a good.
doing this for the show? Or are you really serious saying that I'm the wrong guy?
No, I mean I always felt.
No, that you know what he's saying.
Maybe I'm bad.
He's threatening you with abandonment.
Yeah.
He's saying if you equalize this relationship,
that's what I'm doing.
I may well pull out.
Wow. See, that's the problem, right there.
I think the problem was he never pulled out, and that's why we got Noelle Claire.
I know how to get
it's
to
like
people.
and you're very good. That's subtle.
Yeah.
And thank you, Dr.
Yeah, because it looks
for bringing
like
it out. It sounds fun, but what he's really doing is controlling everything and determining exactly how it's going to.
Are you saying Howard's being passive aggressive?
I'll make it even more incredible.
What?
Yay, Artie.
I'm a hugely difficult person to live with.
Oh,
no
who
shit.
told you that?
The fact that Beth can do this.
Who has
means she's mentally ill.
She's mentally ill. No, it just actually, me and Tracy Lynn came up with this. She said, in case you weren't aware throughout this show that she's a gold digging whore, she puts little nautical buoys to remind you and I mean BUOYS, not Baba Buoy, to remind you every moment that she's in it for the money.
I mean, I'm not mentally ill at all.
That's right, and I like her mental illness.
But you say you're not difficult? I'm the one who told you.
I am
you
so
are
difficult.
Incredibly difficult.
Incredibly?
So much that we have to add syllables to the word.
Right. Now, yes.
I got a question about something.
Wait, Dr. Keith's good. He's getting me all riled up.
This is also, keep in mind, the show now as opposed to then and how many voices are allowed to chime in and how much better it is because there's give and take.
Right.
Like, it's
also
staggeringly.
Too, I love how he's like, wow, God, Dr. Keith's good. He asked maybe 2 things. This is all. I mean, you remember what, the one, it's like Roundhouse Rights when you just ask him anything that's normal.
When Sarah
you
Jessica
don't
Parker
fight.
asked about asked him about what about your kids? Well, one of them is a nurse, and the other one's well, this is about you. It's like you're
One time, David Letterman was messing with him, and not messing with him, but just asking him about his children, and he wanted to stay on that topic. And Howard was just like, my dog died.
Yeah,
I never knew.
Yeah.
I never knew love until
Bianca.
died.
Until 6 Bianca.
I'm not boring at all.
This is something I
He's bored. He fell asleep 10 minutes ago.
I'm not bored. This is something I always wanted to ask you about because I've heard you address this on the air a bunch of times.
I love Beth.
I know, and that I know. But you've addressed this jokingly, and then it sort of went away. You started to talk about how you get. I've seen you over the years. You get obsessed with things. You get onto something, and it becomes your passion. And you started to joke around about 3 or 4 months ago that chess was getting in the way, that you were playing too much chess. And then all of a sudden you stopped talking about it. But I still see that you're playing as much chess as ever.
Okay, you just play. Chess went goodbye. Cycling went goodbye.
Really?
Karate went goodbye. Right? And like all these things he gets. I never
hear him talk about running either, and he can barely move. So,
well, I mean, this is okay. He's 53 years old in this clip. It's before he became the physical manifestation of a question mark when he walks, and it's clear that I guess he bullshitted about OCD for years and years. But wouldn't you say he's more ADHD?
Yes, and I think he has these fleeting hobbies too, to be like, don't fuck Ralph, don't take it up the ass, don't. He's trying to avoid it. I mean, like, I remember. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, everybody. We tried to make sure that it was a we're not trying to maintain that it's a laugh-free zone, but we'll try our best not to be annoying when we laugh about stuff. If we find it funny, it's not a bullshit. We really are laughing. So
I'm obsessed with chess.
So, like, is that weird for you that he's got a hobby that takes up hours that doesn't involve you?
At first it did, I have to say. I used to be Howard's #1 hobby. He's still my #1 hobby. Now chess
Who
is
says that about people?
I used to be your hobby, your #1 hobby. What the fuck does that mean? You mean pet project to make me look like I'm heterosexual?
I used to be your #1 hobby.
Sounds like a shitty Cinderella song from 1989. I used to be your hobby.
And she's also like the chess. She's saying like, I used to get upset about it because I'm not #1. Basically, like, we're missing a movie premiere because of your chess, not like because you're not having sex with me.
Right.
Yes, it is.
No. You are my #1.
Oh, but
listen, hey, let me make a therapeutic intervention
you
here.
stopped her before she answered.
Yeah, you said no. Almost like she's 6. No, I mean, you were like, no, that's
Wait
not
a second.
Right. You didn't say, tell me more.
She can
I didn't
tell me
realize...
what my #1 obsession is.
But she can tell you what she feels.
Yes.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
She feels like she's been replaced by, kings and rooks. Okay? I mean...
So wrong.
I mean, you got to get her...
So it's nailed. Nailed. You fucking trying to control the dialogue 100%. Like, just like any fucking talk show appearance he's ever on.
Except for, like, you know, in the better half, John Hine got railroaded because he's a pussy. But Dr. Keith here is like saying, no, let her make her point.
Right. In this case, it's almost as if you had a real human being, a real live human being in the studio who was allowed to say everything without repercussions and gave him the truth, it would just actually set him, his wires would be twisted and he would be like Norman in the old Star Trek shows, like cannot compute.
A diamond pin of a rook today.
Oh, no, thank you.
No, thank you. Okay.
But over the months, it's been a year now. The year anniversary is coming up with Howard and his chess teacher. I was hearing about that celebration.
We should have an anniversary.
We do.
Fulton?
That's the gayest thing I've ever heard.
How nerdy is that?
It's a year that I've been studying chess seriously.
Howard, this ain't working because you're gay.
Gotta love already. Gotta miss the baby gorilla on the show. Whenever he chose, up until 2009, he was just gold. And even in 2009, there's some moments. One of my favorite clips, again, it's on my channel, but I'm sorry to keep plugging it, guys, but you'll find it if you dig deep enough, where Robin, he goes, remember that one clip where Howard starts talking about, me and Beth talk about this. What are you going to do? You're 20 something years older. You know, like, what are you going to do when I'm dead? And Robin goes, she's going to have a party. And that just came out with there was not a joke.
But, you know, the other thing she does...
You want to be engaged to a 900-level chess player or somebody in the high 1600s?
I don't even know what 900 is or 15. I don't know what the
You don't want to be with a loser.
I don't know numbers.
I'm not good with numbers, yeah.
I decided to embrace his chess and really celebrate it. And that was the day that I had arranged for his chess instructor to come in for the weekend. Yes. I took the chess instructor and his wife out to dinner, and for his gift, I paid for a whole day, one-on-one, face-to-face session with the instructor.
Did she use her mom games money for that, or was that what was the poker one that she did with Steve Sharippa?
I mean, it sounds like she's like setting him up on a so.
Yeah, this is about I can't even imagine a chess teacher, like a chess tutor. Mind you, he's had tutors his entire life. You want to take your chess grandmaster out for lunch?
Jeff Schick's coming over next.
Had a chef come in and cook us all lunch.
It was the most loving thing someone has ever done.
I've never been more...
Is it loving or selfless?
You've never what?
No.
You've never been more what?
Well, I was bored because you were playing chess all day, and it was your birthday, or was it your birthday?
It was my birthday.
And I was away from you all day. I was out shopping, and I was so warmed by my gesture, and I knew that you were so happy.
I was so warmed by my
gesture. So another like weapons grade narcissist.
If you're playing a drinking game and you have my on your board or me, bang, you're smashed.
Was a gift that I tried to embrace, but it didn't include me really, except for the meals, and we're talking about chess.
What can I do to improve?
No, I'm not trying to. I'm not.
Okay.
So this was a few months ago. So now Howard has his chess. I make plans when he has been wonderful. I think he sensed my feelings on it. So he's really cute, Dr. Keith. What he does is he tells me and asks me if it's okay that he has a chess lesson from this time to this time. Is that okay with my schedule?
He's really cute. He asked me if it's okay, but he's going to do it no matter what anyway. So I don't understand.
And they're both she's congratulating herself for doing a selfless thing for his birthday that doesn't include her. Isn't that what birthday gifts are?
Yeah.
Like... When I give a gift to my friend,
I wrapped the box and I gave it away to someone. And they accepted it. Isn't that amazing? It's pretty much mommy, look what I did, and showing people the potty.
I didn't include myself in a dinner for myself. I didn't include myself in your birthday gift.
Wow.
Aren't I so great?
Yeah, special.
He's been really good about that, and I really plan things for myself during those times.
Right.
So it has gotten so much better, except for the fact when you are in the middle of playing and you ask me a question, and I'm doing my own thing, and I answer the question, and he asks the same question 5 minutes later, and then 10 times later he's asking the same questions. He's not listening.
Didn't that happen only once, though?
But that really blew a fuse. I think it's been happening a lot.
I thought you didn't fight. There's another.
There's another example.
There-
Basically, he's not listening.
You know when like there's a crack in your windshield, and then if you don't get it fixed, it just spiders.
Well,
this was The Rock. This conversation.
The one of my favorite quotes from him was from this Rolling Stone interview. I over the years I've talked about it with with the old place, and basically one of the things it says here, he goes something about cutting people off, like why you cut people off, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but he says you have to know where to cut people off. Sometimes you have to cut people off. Like, why? Why do you have to cut people off? Even if they're being boring, you just make a mental note to just not have them in again. You just don't, remember that the next time they were a bore, and that's it.
Right.
It's incredibly rude to just stop and cut someone off in the middle of an interview, even if they're making a boring point.
Well, they're both this is one similarity, that they both have, is they are so full of themselves. Like, they both love themselves and love talking about themselves so much. It's, I mean,
it's staggering.
I was reading old to prepare for this. I kind of read old interviews from Beth, even though they all say the same thing. It's just how she is.
Yeah.
And
do you have a clip? I'll be just 1 second, but go ahead. Keep going.
I said, what's your best advice you received from your mother? Well, my mother always said, when you lose something, pray to St. Anthony, and St. Anthony has never let me down. I have Howard praying to St. Anthony when he loses something, and it never lets him down either. And Howard is Jewish. I think that's so great that St. Anthony takes care of everyone.
He takes care of everyone, except he hasn't seemed to find the honesty in Howard's narrative of his life.
That's the best advice your mother ever gave you.
Pray to St. Anthony. Pray to St. Anthony. Like, let a guy who's, well, not really a practicing Jew, talk about some Catholic, wives' tale, basically. And this is, by the way, anybody listening, I'm not denigrating religion. I don't have a problem with any of that horse shit, but I guess by saying it's horse shit, I'm denigrating it. but what I'm saying is the idea that this Polish Catholic, I don't know, Ames model, using some Catholic mysticism to, front a beard to find what
advice your mother gave you.
I'm missing a black dildo. Can you find it, St. Anthony?
It kind of was the icing on the cake for me.
It's only our first session.
I know.
And we've discovered how many
she feels she's not listened to.
Little things that are going on.
You know what really helps?
They've never had
Robin,
any difficulty.
You know what really helps in this section?
Disagreement.
You coming in. It helps when you
and Howard lied to me last night. Should I get into the lie last night?
What was the lie? You can tell me anything, by the way, Beth.
You wanted to say something?
She's getting she remember how like she always looked at like the Ed Bradley saga, like, oh, it's all about him, Ed, but she's looking and he's like, Howard, you're controlling her story. She's doing that right now. She's looking at him like, oh, I stepped on the carpet.
Yeah, pretty much. That's ironic that you mentioned that, because I often forget about the Ed Bradley, the 60 Minutes interview, because that's when you're going to see him act like, do the best acting of a human being possible, when he starts to well up, when Ed goes, oh, you've been, sort of rough with your employees and whatnot. And he goes, yeah, I sometimes struggle with that. Like, this is where I'm supposed to look like I'm about to cry. It's in the script. And you're right, she does that. And also she's looking over at him the same way in The Better Half, the idea that, oh, Jesus, did I say something? Oh, hold on, let me see if I can fix this in midstream. What can I do to keep this from being a big problem when I fucking go back? And he goes, why did you say that? Why did you say that? Buchwald has it in the contract. You don't talk about this. Anyway.
No, what I'm saying is, I was making a joke.
I know, but I just didn't get
Should
it.
we talk about your life?
Howard, isn't it great when another woman chimes in this kind of a section?
I said, boy, yeah.
You shut up too, you asshole.
Listen!
Now, we do have disagreements here.
But
can you get it to me and Robin after this?
Yes, Dr. Keith.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, I am a little obsessed with the chess right now.
Okay.
And I do want to make the following statement.
I am having with your chess teacher.
I'm having trouble.
Anniversary party coming up.
I am having trouble. I have a tendency to withdraw and get into things. And it's my way of hiding.
Hiding in the closet.
Right. What do you... Okay. I have a tendency to withdraw and hide away from things. What are you hiding from? Supposedly when you get engaged, this is the time where this is your, this is the combination of your love and you're now expressing it and it's all over the place and you're talking about it all over the place. Why are you withdrawing and hiding? I mean, we know you're a big homo, but,
we
in 2007, that was a little bit on the DL.
Yeah.
It's my way of sometimes backing off.
Right.
I do love this chess, and I've realized that I love Beth more than chess.
Oh, good.
I don't want to blow my relationship with her like I've blown other things in my life. What I've done, or at least I've attempted to do,
he is such a 79. Holy shit! You came to the realization that you love a person more than a fucking board game, you moron.
This is another human impersonator phrase.
To check in more about this and say, hey, am I being a little too excessive? Hey, if you're going to the gym, maybe I can play some chess now. See,
so I think that's good.
Yeah, and I'm making sure that like last night we got into bed and watched TV and we screwed. And
screwed?
What do you want to say? You don't like when we say make love, so I didn't say that.
Screwed? That's the grossest
I didn't
term
want to
of
say
what
fuck.
happened.
No, it's not the grossest, honey. He's well aware what the grossest things are.
Last night.
I didn't want to say fucked.
We were together intimately.
That's good. See how she handles me?
Together.
We were together in an intimate way.
I don't even know if I believe that.
I don't know that I've ever said that phrase aloud in my life, even as a joke.
These two make sex sound so unsexy and clinical. Like I've never. It
sounds like
they emanate zero sex appeal. Their sex life sounds like what you're supposed to say sex sounds like. It just sounds terrible.
Did you ever see the Woody Allen film Sleeper?
No.
There's it's robots basically, and he goes, so let's do it like you're supposed to be having sex. No, let's do it manual. No, let's do it automatically, something like that. I haven't seen it since I was 13, but it reminds me of that. Like, and when he used to talk about their quote unquote sex life, it was almost as if he was trying too hard to make it seem like, wow, we really had at it. We really jumped. I really put her over the barrel.
I posted a thread about, she gave an FHM that's when she was like, trying to eat all the careers Beth has blown through in this decade alone. Fucking, oh Jesus. Talk about a head, talk about a neck snap thinking about all the
appearances as herself on IMDb. Well,
she was a sex therapist, and she was saying, like, giving advice, and it sounded like an escort, like these things that you should do, like Howard. I gotta find that thread, but I'll look for it while this is going on. But she's like, Howard and I like to keep it sexy. Like before in the morning when we know we're going to have sex, we both go and shower and brush our teeth. If you want to have morning sex, do you look at the other person and say, okay, let's have sex. I'm going to go brush my teeth and shower.
In between Johns, you really do want to wash the stank off your box, and you want to make sure that, like the next guy is not, like his splooge isn't sharing 6 other guys I've blown that morning. Was that in the print FHM, or was that like on a video?
I'll find it. Keep playing the audio. I'm going to find it.
Okay.
king.
Right.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm trying to find
Shut
balance.
up, Artie.
You're
Stop
trying to
chiming
find
in.
balance.
Honestly, I'm really okay at this point with your chest. Do you feel that too? Didn't
do.
you sense my negativity before, and now it's
Yes.
lifted, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like we've gone through that.
Well, I think that's good.
Oh, we've gotten through that. I'm so glad that
her
the
needs.
board
But
game
the other thing I'd
problem
like
is
to point
resolved.
out is that when you talk about things that concern you about him, to me, you look at him. She's constantly taking your pulse.
I like
it's
that.
anxiety provoking at a deep unconscious level.
Yes.
She's constantly sampling.
Yes.
Your tone of voice,
That's true.
your facial expressions.
Right.
This is key, and that's why I'm really sorry.
This is a good observation from Keith.
This is key because, and unfortunately, I do have the video, but I thought it would be easier. It's just way easier, and it's not. It's other than these small segments which you see in other videos where she's looking at him and gazing up on him and looking at him like, oh yes, did I do right, Daddy? Other than the odd occasion, the video is not really essential, but for those moments, it would have been really good to have. But he's absolutely right. Like it's always looking over at him to assuage his insecurity. Like, oh no, you're number one. You're still the meal ticket. Don't worry, that's not going anywhere.
See whether she's falling out of favor.
Right.
And it's and if it's okay to be talking about something.
Right.
There you go. There's the admission. Like, did I go off script? Fuck, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Now, what's that about?
Because they're personal things that I didn't want to talk about on the air, I guess.
Is there one of them that you wanted to broach? Or?
Howard's a homosexual.
I can't talk about the contract. I've got an NDA about our beard agreement.
So I didn't want to get into. And I'm not gonna
get into what. What don't you want to get into?
You did say something about him lying.
That's a nervous laugh if I've ever heard one.
Oh, big time.
I asked him, I was really thirsty, so he said, honey, let me get you a bottle of water. And the second he stepped out of the room, he farted so loud, and he came back in, and I go, that was disgusting. Did you just fart? And he goes, no.
Well, that's the appropriate response.
Sorry.
Beth reading the room and realizing
I got to be funny.
Reading his temperature and saying, I better say something about flatulence and just throw off the scent because I just almost dropped a giant bomb.
Big time. A truth bomb.
That's a white lie.
I didn't know she could hear.
Robin, it was
like, yeah, I got to tell you how it was. It was like this.
Well, that's his cue.
Yeah.
So now we're in performing mode.
Performance stern. Let me do this off the cuff fart.
Better start making out with Keith Ablow.
That's coming up soon.
We had a salad. I'm sorry, Dr. Keith.
That's all right.
You're not gastrointestinal.
I am a medically trained doctor. I can maybe help you with whatever's going on GI-wise, too.
What is it, Ralph?
Now, hold on. Before we get into that, do you remember offhand, do you have the link for his credentials? Because a lot of times these guys are not doctors. They're like Dr. Laura was actually, what was it, a doctorate of, she has a doctorate in physical education or something.
Yeah,
and became a psychiatrist online on the air.
And what's his face? Dr. Phil,
Dr.
wasn't
Phil.
a real doctor. And
That's right.
I think he was at some point, but then hadn't been for years.
Right.
So.
But he was not a doctor of psychology. That's the whole point with Dr. Phil originally.
Right.
And
so he was. Hold on,
how perfect was that? Didn't you say Dr. Ablow knowing what he looks like, he was from a place called Marblehead in New York? I don't even know if is that really a town?
He did. He attended Marblehead High School.
Marblehead High School. How appropriate.
He graduated from Brown University in 1983, magna cum laude, with a Bachelor of Science degree in neurosciences. He received his Doctor of Medicine degree from Johns Hopkins Medical School in 1987 and completed his psychiatry residency at the Tufts New England Medical Center. He was board certified by the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology and Psychiatry in 1993 and Forensic Psychiatry in 99. While a medical student, he worked as a reporter for Newsweek and a freelancer for the Washington Post and Baltimore Sun and USA Today. After his residency, Ablow served as a medical director of the Tri-City Mental Health Centers and then became the medical director of Heritage Health Systems and associate medical director of Boston Regional Medical Center. So he's like no slouch.
No, he's not a quack. He does have he did later on. He kind of self-destruct.
Yeah.
But you said early on he was a contributor to Newsday, was it?
Newsweek, the Baltimore Sun, Washington Post, and USA Today.
So
he started writing. He started writing columns for his publications in the New York Times, Washington Post throughout his residency, and so he was always had his hands in a bunch of different things. But then he started the TV route, and then it's like you see all of a sudden his things are like the Oprah Winfrey Show, the Today Show, the Howard Stern Show, Good Morning America, CBS Early, Larry King Live, Tyra Banks, Nancy Grace, CNN, Fox. I mean, he spiraled, man.
Yeah, he made the rounds, and he was definitely trying to. And I think ultimately, if you do want to read, there's a New York Times article I from December 19th of last year that me and Sam passed around. I don't have it offhand, but basically explained what his downfall was. Had he decided to go a little more lower key, he might not have had the problems he did. It seems like he basically power corrupted him, and he thought he could get away with just about anything. And if you read not the depositions, but if you read the articles about the lawsuits and the fact that they paid him to go away.
I read the specific one patient. He really
did a number on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you can see why the AMA would, not AMA, the APA, would not want to have any association with them whatsoever, because it just puts the whole practice into disrepute. Anyway, let's continue.
To chime in on my session again, here he is.
Another woman heard.
Are you there?
I'm here. Hey now.
Yeah. Hey now.
I have a serious question for you, Beth. That I wonder about, and I know you observe this. How do you put up with Howard's constant complaining? You laugh it off.
You know what I do? I laugh it off. Just when he's complaining in front of us, Ralph, and you and I are together, we look at each other and I roll my eyes and I kind of smile. That's how I deal with it on my own. I turn around, I smile to myself, and do
I constantly complain?
Yes.
I do?
Now, this is the two employees laughing it off because we know who signs their fucking paycheck.
I love Artie in the background, too, because this is just like, again, you're peeking behind the curtain.
Absolutely.
And this is kind of like you always knew probably this is what it was like, but now you're getting confirmation that this is what it's like.
Also, for those listening, this is after, I don't know how long after, but it's definitely after the bro fight, and it does come up in the near the end of the interview.
But you like it.
Yourself at all?
No, but you like when I critique.
I love you.
You like when I critique things. That's what I'm doing. What do I complain about? What did I complain about?
Ralph, help me.
No, really, what do I complain about?
Everything.
Not everything.
Well, I have to handle things.
There was one day Ralph was over all day, and we were so aware that you were complaining. There was not one positive thing that came out of your mouth. And we looked at each other, and then we realized while we were looking at each other, there was not one happy, positive thing in the whole day. Ralph was there for like 10 hours.
Angry man.
His two girlfriends conferring. And it reminded me of that one clip I used at the old place. I used an intro where Ralph goes, he called up Beth and he said, look, Howard gave me a big check. You and I are in the same boat. What would you do in this situation? And then they go, what are they talking about? Ralph's not my girlfriend. And I thought at the time, well, isn't he?
I know. They're both paid employees, like in weird fuckery relationships. It's so bizarre. It's the land of bizarre. And by the way, you're listening to this and you're thinking, so why are you marrying this guy?
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, exactly. Why else?
This all is deduced.
Yeah.
Down to she's
Yes.
a fucking gold digger.
It makes me so sad that you are.
Such a happy person. I mean, I guess there's a balance there, but at some point, don't you think that's going to wear thin with you, Beth?
Well, Beth has an illness that she's so happy.
Are you testing her?
I feel bad for her. But she doesn't see it the way it is. I have tremendous anger.
Which derives from your childhood experiences.
I don't know where it's
no.
Well, yes.
Now, there is. I did do the reading. I wish I could have dug it up, but basically, there is something that he calls it narcissistic rage. But the gist of it, from what I can recall, talking with Tracy Lynn about it, was you invent slights, you create slights and situations where you believe you've been wrong, but you actually haven't, and it's delusional. Essentially, it's rooted in delusion, and it's part of that whole king baby thing that we also talked about years and years ago about that came up through, I believe it was Sam Hazelton. Is it David Hazelton? I can't remember his name. That who was connected to AA. Actually, he did some work on king babyism, and it had to do with alcoholics. We'll talk about that at another time. But basically, narcissistic personality disorder and the roots of what the symptoms of which, and if you read through the list, he's got them all, almost every single one of them. And let's continue.
What a joy.
Yeah, but I'm very angry.
You're very angry. Okay. And she feels for broken, injured
she feels sad
beings.
for me. Yes.
Right? And so everything she delivers to you, by the way, is in a very loving way.
Yes.
I adore him.
She's the most loving woman I've ever met.
I love
Back
him.
on script. Get back on script.
So much.
I love
Wouldn't
her.
this be the ideal time, as you've spoken to essentially come to equilibrium with someone? To say, you know what, why do I need all these defenses, these so many things in my quiver of arrows? Let me dispense to the extent that I can with some of them and let her come even closer.
How do we do that?
Well, we give...
Go ahead. I see it on your face. No signal needed. Just so your eyes go wide.
How do we do that? How do we be normal people and allow ourselves to be normal people in a normal relationship? I mean, seriously, they venture off script for 5 minutes and they are lost.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you want to, that's why for years he wouldn't do SNL. That's a whole other discussion because that basically he could not memorize lines. He's too stupid. And he doesn't want to have to, like he can't, what's the, Chevy Chase was told.
He doesn't want the tools to get to solve the problem. He doesn't even want, how do we get there? But I'm not going to do it.
Well, yeah, it was Johnny Carson said about Chevy Chase, but you could use this about Howard. He couldn't ad-lib a fart at a baked bean dinner. and I think it's so true. Howard, without his script, he clearly has to go gay. He has to go, talk about flatulence, talk about his mother, talk about his parents. He's got so few go-to moves that they're just by the numbers.
For permission, psychologically,
yes,
I could do that with her.
Please.
Right? And you'll find as you restrain yourself from, to some extent, using these gifts you have.
I am a strong enough man, I'm telling you this right now, Dr. Ablow, to agree to that.
Well, and that's
even with all the consequences that come with it, because having an equal partner to me is the most important thing.
That right there sounds threatening. That is that is such a passive aggressive horseshit thing to say. He's like, I'm going to agree with that, even though there might be consequences.
That's right. He does sound like, if you want to see your daughter again, leave the bag at the corner of Vine and Nelson in unmarked non-sequential bills. It sounds like if when did he ever want to be equals with anybody ever in his life? Just a quick question.
I'm willing to do that, but there might
check your brake. Make sure your brake line is not cut.
Isn't that a disaster if you restrain yourself?
Consequences?
Consequences could be. I will have to psychologically deal with my inability to pull all the strings.
And you know what?
That's why you do it.
At its core, this is a question about whether you are, in fact, truly lovable. That you
You want to answer that for him?
have internally.
You are asking me.
Yes.
If Superman can give up his powers.
Oh, here we go.
Will I be willing to take kryptonite?
Yeah.
For my
For Lois, you're Lois.
And the answer is yes.
Fred awakens from his stupor to play with sound clip.
My love knows no boundaries.
Fred trying to arrange King Norris gigs at the Holiday Inn.
I wish he would have started playing What's the Matter with Kids?
I'll save the Paul Lynde impression for another podcast.
You know why this is interesting to me,
I mean, my
Howard?
love for myself.
Howard,
Yes.
remember when you read the book Marley and Me?
Yes, I did.
And you were very touched by the book?
I got him the book, by the way.
Oh, that was sweet.
Yes.
Wait.
If you're playing,
I
take
got
a
him
shot.
the book.
Oh, you don't even remember. Have you fogged over and you don't remember?
No, I remember.
What was it that touched you about the book?
I forget.
I knew it.
79.
I'm not comfortable.
He goes, I'm not comfortable with
Emotion.
emotions.
I'm not comfortable
You're
with
not comfortable
feeling.
with feelings.
No. I
Really?
forget.
Truly?
Howard was on the plane coming home from a vacation, reading that book,
I had something in my eye.
bawling,
Oh.
bawling.
No, when he left the room and he was such a pussy, he would have backhanded her right now. You cry!
It would have been like Gianni Russo in The Godfather. Come on, you spoiled guinea brat. Break it all. Now clean it up. That's the funniest thing. Because when you say the word bawling implies he was in the racks of fucking tears. Racks of tears. Oh, you're going, you're little, you're too off
No,
mic.
that wasn't a commercial fight.
Yeah, no.
Himself feel. Yes, you were.
Did he tell you what had moved him to such an extent?
He's a
fan. When would you ever hear this in 2020 on the Stern Show?
I love, by the way,
You're going a
annoyed-
little off mic. Move it. Yeah,
Oh,
just make
sorry.
sure. Yeah.
I apologize.
Oh.
Ralph, when he annoys me to no end, but when he gets those little chuckles in, it's really
Evil
really
laughs.
funny.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, you know what? I hadn't read the book yet.
Well, what
Yeah,
movie?
but
I
he
don't
did
remember.
come back and he shared it with everybody.
But I forget. You see, I block it all
I
out.
know. I said you don't even have it anymore. You were so
cried
amazing.
because the very last page of the book, Marley dies.
Right.
And
that
that
was-
wasn't
Now you ruined it for
what,
him.
what
made
he
me
got
cry?
out of the book. He said he learned more from that book.
He did say
And he
that.
I learned how to love animals instead of humans.
I know. Just the fact that
I learned.
Marley and me.
I learned. My boots.
Marley.
Sorry, what?
He learned more from Marley and me. So stupid.
Yeah, I have 3 grown daughters, but I learned more from a book about a dog and his relationship with some guy. But meanwhile, I learned lacing up my boots and unlacing them is more important than saving my bulldog.
lesson of his life from reading that book.
What was the lesson?
And the lesson was that perfect relationships don't bring people closer together. It's when you can accept the imperfections and get through problems together that the relationship grows.
And you know,
for years we've been saying also at the other place that Robin, it's funny, they can spot the sort of psychoses of each other, but they cannot spot it in themselves. And Robin actually is very on point for once when she's, now when you read
this won't be on robiniswrong.com. This was spot on.
That was spot on. So she's very astute when it comes to his psychoses because she shares so many of the same ones.
I'm actually shocked that he came to that revelation on his own. I mean, he quickly forgot it, of course, but...
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me, and I'll forget it by tomorrow. Yes, you got to love the hard times.
Marley was the world's worst dog. Right.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You got to put down a little more white carpet in that mansion of yours. Because
it's no mansion. It's
I
an
know,
apartment.
but the apartment.
Yes.
But you got to put
my God.
Again with that fucking, it's no mansion. Like, who you fooling?
For fuck's sake.
Yeah.
The plumbers are coming. The plumbers are coming.
It's no mansion.
Barricade the doors.
It's no mansion. My grandpa Saul had a huge head of hair. You pick your lie. Just pick your lie and just go with it.
Down a little bit more white carpet, because your inclination is to say, you know what, I never liked it. It's an intrusion. But guess what? You love her.
I'm willing to do it for her. I'm going to take my shoes off.
Well, we're getting new carpet where you can wear your shoes on.
That's the
But I don't know if it's wise. I mean, is it already? It's already ordered.
It's a mess already.
What color is it?
Yeah, the carpet is so ruined from Howard's boots that I need a new carpet anyhow.
I think symbolically, Beth should dress in a white carpet because Howard's walking all over.
The baby gorilla comes through with the funny.
Am I walking all over?
No, I'm paid to be funny here. It was a joke. No, I think I agree with Ralph. I think there's better examples of where Beth might recoil a little bit because she's scared.
Really?
And I think one came up on the air recently, and to me, you did something where if I was in a relationship with anybody and they did this, it would make me so angry.
Okay, go ahead.
And you tend to do this a lot because you tell somebody something they should be thinking, and they think they're wrong for even thinking their own thing, and they back off from their opinion.
People are wrong for thinking.
Beth mentioned that her family wanted to throw an engagement party in Pittsburgh.
That's right.
Her father wanted to do something, and you were like, "Come on, your father doesn't want to do that."
Like, this is the best thing. At this point, in 2007, he had still never been to Pittsburgh, according to him, and he'll admit that.
Well, the oddity of, Felon Bob and that whole thing, I don't, it's just okay. But I also was looking back on their engagement and that Mark's Friggin' episode. Howard told his parents he was engaged, and his father wouldn't come to the phone.
For those people who are listening, and this, because this isn't, for some people, believe it or not, it isn't common knowledge. Dr. Bob Ostrowski was a dentist, or was a dentist.
Oh, we have to talk about who Felon Bob is. Okay, I forgot.
Yeah, because that is like, that's right.
That is probably, you should say why he's a felon.
Basically, he got busted for, I think, malpractice, like dental insurance fraud, sometime in 2001, I believe it is. If you look online, you'll find the court docket somewhere. And basically, he was under house arrest for something like a year, was it house arrest? I believe it was.
Yeah, he was in house arrest. That's why he never came to New York, and just Judy did.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's never addressed. I mean, some other great channels, like Arms Channel, was really good. And I think he did have a saga about it in relation to the Whys and the Hosannas about that. But basically, Dr. Bob, so we got a family of grifters, basically. And it doesn't make Beth look good, so why wouldn't you want to whitewash that little aspect? So Dr. Bob, go ahead, sorry.
So, yeah, right, like you said, he hasn't been to Pittsburgh yet. He's saying he doesn't want to throw an engagement party. What parents don't want to throw a party for their child when they get married unless they're total psychopaths that hate you? I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Or unless you, because you're such a fucking king baby, just don't want to ever go outside of your little 6-foot bubble and actually see where the shithole where your beard comes from. Let's be honest. And Pittsburgh, I don't know. I'm not insulting the people from Pittsburgh. Maybe it's a wonderful, maybe it makes Rome look like shit. But I'm saying it's very much him being a snobby shit and saying, like, I don't want to fucking do it, and whatever I don't want to do, that's what's going to happen.
She says, what are you talking about? My family feels they want to do something. You tell her your father's a man's man. I'll talk to him. He doesn't. Clearly, you don't want to go to Pittsburgh for an engagement party, and you're telling her what her family is saying, and then.
Honey.
But we discussed afterwards, and guess who's coming to Pittsburgh in October for an engagement party?
That's a good thing.
Me.
Who, me?
You're welcome to come.
No, you're lucky.
See, there you go. He's admitted it himself. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't a joke of him saying, you're lucky. You're not the one going. He just doesn't want to fucking go. That's it.
Plus, again, this is every time that you take the camera off of them, but you actually really observe them in real life. There's nothing there. The phoniness is it's so obvious that that they can't fake it for that long.
well, that's the problem. They're not smart enough to get out of their own way most of the time. They stumble across words. They answer incorrectly, and they got to backtrack. One of my favorite clips ever, which I used for an old intro at the old place, was where he said, "It's been when she was writing, I think, Oh My Dog."
God.
And he said something, it was completely off the cuff. If you listen long enough to the show and you archive it as I do, you know his tells and you know when he's telling the truth because it's usually going to come out on the air. What he says off the air is horseshit. But he said something like, and she's going to donate some of the profits to charity. And like, what the fuck would you do that for? That is Stern. That's him in a nutshell.
And then he was like, I just want her to stop writing this fucking book.
Exactly. There's support from him.
You are right, because that is a discussion we had to have later, and we worked through it. And he said, "Does your father really want that?" And I said, "I really believe that he does." And so, in turn, Howard accepted.
Yeah, and here you are. It's interesting. You sort of as the ambassador between two men who want things and trying to make it okay for both of them. The question is, are you worried at all that you'll hear about it if it's not perfect?
Well, I already have the pressure of, where are we going to stay in Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh is a town where Howard is huge, meaning it's going to be very difficult to go to my favorite restaurant in Pittsburgh. I'm very nervous about it already. But I think if we're gonna keep it confined to the house, and then you and I will go to the hotel.
Whenever we've done anything with your family, haven't I always been the one that's like really gung-ho and into it? And
you've been amazing. That's not...
No, do they have Chanterelle in fucking New Jersey? Do they have Delmonico? Sorry, in Pittsburgh? Do they have Delmonicos?
He's amazing, and like everybody has to come to him and do what he wants and then get out when he wants. That's not amazing.
No, it's not actually. It's actually quite normal for him to be.
That's not the problem here. You've never been out to my family. They've all come to us.
Really?
This is the first trip to Howard will
in 7 years.
In 7 years. Well, I have.
Yeah.
It's true.
He wasn't invited.
It's not that he wasn't invited.
It is not that he wasn't invited.
No,
she didn't want me to go.
We're welcome to come any.
I said, I'd like to go see where you grew up. And she said to me, I don't want to.
Really? Why?
It makes me nervous, Howard, going to Pittsburgh.
Why?
Just that he's going to be uncomfortable there.
Now, hold on. Do you believe this is not she's nervous? It's equal parts. I don't want him to fucking bitch and moan about where he is, but it's mostly I don't want to see him to see the shithole I grew up in.
I don't think she grew up poor, but I think it's a sense of, one, Beth doesn't have any friends. That was stated from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't it be a little maybe unnerving if you're going back to a town where you didn't maintain any friendships? I mean...
Well, I mean...
There's nobody to visit?
Well, no, but
at
that age, it's very possible all her friends are, if she had any friends, they're all gone from Pittsburgh to on bigger, better things, or they've moved out, if she had any. Right. I mean, she could always introduce him to the principal, her boyfriend from Fox Chapel High School.
Okay, but then there's something apprehensive in her voice. I don't think it's just about him being uncomfortable in Pittsburgh. I think it's something about. I don't know what she sounds more uncomfortable, like she's hiding something, but I'm not exactly sure what.
Yeah, well, that's conjecture for the listeners to figure out, I suppose.
Uncomfortable with what?
With
her family.
The accommodations.
The accommodations, the hotel.
How much pressure is that?
That's a lot of pressure.
The greatest hotel in Pittsburgh's in the city. We live in a suburb 35 minutes outside.
Okay.
It's going to be.
Okay.
So maybe now that she said that, maybe she's nervous about Wiggy not having, Trump Towers and all the New York City accoutrements.
Yeah, electronically controlled blackout shades and Nobu at his beck and call.
Right.
Yeah.
Howard traveling back and forth.
I grew up in a shithole. I can be anywhere.
And he did not grow up in a shithole, ladies and gentlemen. Ben Stern made a very good living. Don't buy into this horse shit. It was not a shithole. It was a working class neighborhood.
Freaking recording studio, for Christ's sake.
Right. And just go to just even do the math. Go check anybody online. Just check the average rate for renting a time at a recording studio. It's incredibly expensive. So.
But honey, you never said I need to go to Pittsburgh and be with your family. Well, now's the time it's going to happen, and I'm already nervous.
She's already nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous because I want it to be perfect for us.
If you're playing your drinking game, perfect.
Yeah, he said for him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were gonna say for you, right?
No, she didn't care about
You'll
her.
be fine with
She's
anything.
very
You know
worried.
that.
No,
It's
she
gotta
watched
be
you
him,
every
right?
second that she delivered.
Listen to this House of Cards. How the hell does this survive? You know how it survives now is they live in separate residences and can barely function in a car ride together. So that's how this survives now. It's, dragging by the balls of its ass, but it's now you see the House of Cards then. I mean, seriously.
It was very much like I was thinking a parallel of someone. Usually, Howard Hughes is the best comparison, and that's the way it is going to end up, and that's what it's shaping up to be near the tail end of his life. But I was thinking more like Elvis. Elvis's last two girlfriends. One of them was Linda Thompson, I believe her name was. She was like a beauty queen, and the one before the last one was a real piece of work. But the one before, all the Memphis guys, the Memphis Mafia, the guys that hung around him, said she was actually really good for him, and really she didn't want to change him. She just didn't. She was kind of like Beth, but in a nice. They said she was a genuinely nice person to be around, and it was more along the lines of, look, she was happy to be with him. He did well she was nice to her and he treated her well. There wasn't much sex involved, but she said every once in a while, but she was happy to be there basically. And she didn't want to make his life any more difficult than she thought it already was. Beth is kind of like that, except way more social climbing and clearly more about the money. There's just no way, otherwise you don't try to get on these sitcoms. You don't look at her IMDb, her list of failed ventures and all this shit. There's no other reason to be doing these unless you want to be more famous and you want to have that.
She had an entire run through this engagement to the wedding of getting famous off of just getting married, basically.
Absolutely. And it was just fodder.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, and the if you want to look, anybody want to do, there's I think Splitsider it's the website Splitsider that has a list of failed Howard Stern projects. But if you wanted to do you could have 5 websites on Beth's failed projects and her appearances, and it's always as herself. It's hysterical when you see it all.
Every nanosecond.
I love it.
And now she's reassuring you, by the way.
Yes.
She's like, I better tell him how much I love him.
What do you think's going on here, Dr. Ablow?
I think 7 years in, you have somebody who loves you to the ends of the earth, right? Yeah.
By the way, it's not 7 years. In 2007, it wasn't 7 years. The John Popper book, if you look it online, it illustrates that they were together at least in the as early as mid-98. So, again, revisionist history.
I would do anything for him.
Even give up elements of self for you. She would.
I know.
You can't accept that gift. It's not a gift.
I'm not entitled to it.
And you don't. And it's not.
I don't know why. It's too much of a burden.
You're entitled to true, genuine love. You're entitled to someone.
That's right.
See, here's what it is, and without saying it, you guys do not genuinely love each other. Kind of.
Like ding.
You're entitled to it. But you don't have that here.
You really
That's
don't
not
have
what
it.
This is.
Right.
Genuine love.
That doesn't mean that my love isn't genuine?
No, I think you're capable of extraordinary love. The resistor in the...
Capable, just not there.
Just not there. You and I are nodding like yeah.
Are you saying that this love he paid for is not genuine?
Circuit. What we don't want is for any ill will to be engendered over years. As you say, God, you know what? I've really been worried about him all the time. What he thinks, whether he's walking on the white carpet, I got to worry about the hotel. And in the back
I want him to be comfortable at all times.
Not too,
but that's too much of a burden for you.
Yeah, to have that constant anxiety, which comes from where? I asked you, but we didn't really get into it, but we could at some time in the future or now. But it has to have come from somewhere. Your capacity to be...
Fear.
I always take care.
See what he said? Fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just came right out. And he wants that. That's exactly what he wants. He wants her afraid that every fucking move she makes, he's going to maybe just pull the plug and there's the prenup, blah, 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 take your money and get the fuck out. Now, according to the other place, the dope they got was that no matter what happens, this is, this was assuming that she didn't have a kid, she would end up with nothing but $10 million. That would be the payout. I don't know enough about New York law and marital law, and are any lawyers that we have on the site. You know who you are. You can see, maybe you can do the real little legwork for us and find out what would happen in that situation if she had a kid, or if she has a kid currently by Stern, and find out what that would mean for a prenup in that situation.
There are people around. Mother always said, you're a people pleaser. You always, want to say the right thing.
Why should your mother define who you are?
What's wrong with her, Kate?
That's not what she's saying, you dumbass.
Yeah, she's a people pleaser. She's a hooker.
You're saying it's not what Dr. Ablow is saying. It's not real love that you feel for me. It's more fear.
Oh my God!
No, not true.
Let's save his little fragile ego.
Hear that?
Not true.
Yeah, please.
No.
I didn't hear that at all.
No, and
Let's
again,
go to Mark, go ahead.
Do you notice this too? You really have to build him up to even interject the slightest bit of criticism on him. You have to really stroke that ego to get a centimeter of criticism thrown his way.
There's always a preamble. It's almost like a cushion. It's like a silencer. Before I shoot you, I got to make sure there's no sound and there's no feeling. You're in your bed. You've got all your little comfort items around you, and then I'm going to shoot you when you're doped up and can't feel anything.
Scared shitty. Beth loves you.
You're scared shit of me. Everyone's scared shit of me. I can't take it. Mark, go ahead. You're on the air in New Jersey.
I'm not scared of him.
I can't wait to Howard TV so I can see the smile on Artie's face as he's watching this all take place.
Come on.
This Ablow character, he knows how to get to people.
Honey, are you worried about us right now?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I would marry you tomorrow.
They're fine.
Say you are lying, but if everything you say is a lie, then you are telling the truth. But you cannot tell the truth because everything you say is a lie. But you lie, you tell the truth, but you cannot, for you lie. Illogical. Please explain.